There are roads in Oregon where the trees never stop whispering, where fog rolls down the path like a living creature, where travelers feel eyes on their backs, even when the road is empty. Some locals will never drive these roads at night. They lock their doors and whisper warnings to anyone who dares. Shadows twist under the moonlight. Branches reach down as if to grab the unwary. Tonight, we will journey through 25 of Oregon's most haunted forest roads. Roads where travelers vanish without a trace. Where lights flicker in the distance, though no one is there. Where every mile feels longer than it should, and every turn may lead you closer to something you cannot escape. Take a deep breath, because once we enter these roads, you may feel something watching you, following you, never letting you go. Greetings, my friend. I hope you are somewhere safe and warm, somewhere the darkness cannot creep to easily. Because tonight, we leave the comfort of streetlights and city sounds. We step into the heart of Oregon's forests, into roads that twist and vanish among towering pines, ancient oaks, and fog-thick valleys. Locals know better than to drive these roads at night. They speak in hushed tones about headlights that appear behind them and vanish instantly, about figures that seem to walk on the edge of the fog, about shadows that do not belong to any tree or animal. Each forest road has its own story, a story of tragedy, a story of vanishings, a story of restless spirits that refuse to leave. Some travelers feel icy fingers brush their shoulders. Some hear whispers calling their names. Some see a figure standing in the middle of the road, only to vanish when they slow down. Before we begin our journey through Oregon's haunted forest roads, I want to ask you a question. If you could drive down one of these roads alone at midnight, would you dare to do it? And what would you secretly hope or fear to see along the way? Share your answer in the comments if you dare. Your courage will be tested tonight. Now, take a slow breath. The fog is settling. The trees are waiting. And the first road is calling. Winding through the dense forest of Lane County, Roe River Road stretches narrow and twisting, disappearing into shadows of towering evergreens. The canopy above blocks much of the light, leaving travelers surrounded by a muted, green-tinged twilight, even in the late afternoon. The road is quiet, deceptively serene, yet many who venture along it speak of an unsettling presence that seems to watch from the edges of the fog. As mist settles among the trees, shapes begin to appear, fleeting and indistinct. Shadowy figures are often reported standing just beyond the reach of headlights, vanishing when approached. They are never fully seen, only sensed, leaving travelers with a lingering impression of being observed. The deeper one drives into forest, the heavier the silence becomes, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant cry of an unseen animal. Whispers are another common experience along Roe River Road. Some travelers report hearing voices calling their names through the trees, faint and melodic yet impossible to locate. The sounds are subtle, seeming to drift on the wind, leaving a trace of unease in their wake. Even when no one else is around, the whispers create a sense of connection to something beyond ordinary perception, a reminder that the forest holds stories that are not easily forgotten. The road itself is narrow and winding, forcing drivers to navigate carefully. Many have experienced cars stalling inexplicably, engines dying without warning, only to restart when the vehicle is moved a few feet or left to sit in silence. Lights flicker, radios hum or go silent, and the air inside the vehicle seems to thicken with tension. It is as if the forest itself is a presence, testing the resolve of those who venture too far into its depths. Local lore speaks of a spirit, the ghost of a lost traveler who wanders the road endlessly. Stories tell of someone who vanished decades ago, their journey never completed, their presence lingering in the fog and shadows. Witnesses describe a sensation of being followed, of eyes tracing their every movement, and the persistent feeling that the forest is alive with memory and energy. The forest along Roe River Road is dense and old. Moss hangs from branches, and the floor is carpeted with fallen leaves and pine needles that deaden footsteps. Sunlight struggles to penetrate the canopy, creating long, shifting shadows that seem to move independently. Travelers often describe a feeling that the forest is watching, that every tree and every curve in the road holds a memory of past journeys, both completed and abandoned. Fog intensifies the atmosphere. It clings to the road, rising and falling as headlights cut through the mist. Figures appear and vanish within the fog, their forms distorted and fleeting. The silence presses in, amplifying every sound, every movement, and heightening the sense of isolation. Some who have driven River Road at night speak of sudden chills, a coldness that sweeps through the vehicle as though carried by unseen hands. The temperature drops in patches, leaving passengers shivering even with heaters on. The effect is brief, but it adds to the sense that the road is more than a path through the forest. It is a threshold into a space where the ordinary and the mysterious converge. Occasionally, travelers glimpse something standing among the trees just off the road, a figure that seems rooted in shadow. It may be watching silently or pacing along the edge of the mist, but always disappears when fully observed. The presence is never aggressive, yet it is undeniably there, a quiet reminder that the forest holds secrets beyond human comprehension. Even during the day, the road retains its strange energy. The play of light through the branches creates shifting patterns that resemble movement in the corner of vision. Sounds carry differently among the trees, the forest amplifying creaks, rustles, and distant calls. The environment encourages heightened awareness, urging travelers to notice the subtle details that define the forest's mysterious character. The lore surrounding River Road is as thick as the forest itself. Tales of the lost traveler, unexplained sounds, and shadowy figures are passed down through generations. Locals warn visitors to be cautious, to respect the forest and its presence, and to remember that the road is not just a route through the trees, but a place where history and mystery intertwine. At the deepest points of the road, the isolation becomes profound. The forest seems to close in, and the air grows heavy with anticipation. Travelers report a heightened sense of presence, as though unseen eyes are following their every movement. Every bend in the road carries a potential for unexpected phenomena, from shadows at the tree line to whispers on the wind. From shadows at the tree line to whispers on the wind. Driving River Road is an experience that lingers long after the journey ends, is a place where the ordinary world meets where mist, shadow, and silence converge to, create an atmosphere that is haunting, immersive, and travelers return with memories not only but also of the subtle, persistent awareness of being. The road continues to wind through Lane County, timeless and unchanged. Its trees, fog, and hidden corners carry the echoes of past travelers, and the presence of a lost spirit, guiding the unwary and curious alike. Every journey along River Road becomes part of its story, a continuous thread in a tapestry woven from shadow, silence, and the enduring mystery of the forest that surrounds it. Deadwood Road winds through the dense forests of Clackamas County, Oregon, a narrow stretch of asphalt flanked by towering evergreens and thick underbrush. During the day, sunlight filters through the canopy, painting the road in shifting patterns of green and gold. Birds call from the trees, and the occasional rustle of wildlife adds to the quiet serenity. But as night falls, the road transforms, taking on a more ominous presence that has captivated the attention of travelers and locals alike. Drivers often report a sense of isolation as darkness settles. The thick woods seem to close in on both sides, blocking out the horizon and muting the sounds of civilization. The headlights of a car cut through black, illuminating only the immediate path, while shadows stretch unnaturally from the trees. In this setting, Deadwood Road feels suspended in time, as if the forest itself has absorbed the weight of countless untold stories. Nighttime travelers sometimes see headlights approaching from the opposite direction. At first, it appears to be another car, its beam cutting through the dark. But when they pull over or stop to yield, the road remains empty, the approaching vehicle vanished without trace. The phenomenon is unsettling, leaving the mind searching for explanation while the forest watches silently. It is as though the road holds illusions of movement, teasing those who traverse it with glimpses of presence that never materialize. The sounds along Deadwood Road add to its eerie atmosphere. Branches snap behind cars without cause, startling drivers and passengers alike. Footsteps echo where no one stands. The wind moves through the trees in a way that carries a whispering quality, merging with the isolated sounds to create the impression that the forest itself is alive and aware. These auditory cues heighten attention, encouraging vigilance and amplifying the sense that the road is more than just asphalt through the woods. Some travelers have reported seeing a pale figure standing at the side of the road. It is often described as tall and still, its form vaguely human, with eyes that glow faintly in the darkness. The figure does not move immediately, remaining in place as cars approach and pass. But when a vehicle slows or stops, the figure is gone, vanished into the shadows as though it was never there. These encounters are brief but leave a strong impression, a reminder of the lingering presence that seems to inhabit the road and its surrounding forest. The road itself is narrow and winding, creating moments where visibility is limited and the forest presses in close. Curves appear suddenly, sometimes shrouded in fog or low-hanging mist, enhancing the sense of disorientation. Headlights flicker without explanation. Fleeting shadows cross the periphery of vision, and the quiet hum of the car engine seems amplified in the surrounding darkness. Travelers cannot help but feel a heightened awareness, a mixture of caution and fascination as they navigate the terrain. Trees along Deadwood Road are ancient, their roots twisting and breaking to the soil, their branches forming a dense canopy overhead. At night, the forest seems to breathe, the movement of leaves and branches creating fleeting impressions of motion where none exists. Small clearings occasionally break the dense foliage, revealing glimpses of the sky, yet the sense of isolation remains profound. It is in these spaces that travelers often first notice the subtle presence of something unseen, a quiet attention from a forest that is almost palpable. The experiences on Deadwood Road are often reported in detail by locals and visitors alike. Cars stall inexplicably, radios cut out, and mirrors catch movement from the corners of the eye. Some drivers speak of the sensation of being watched, an awareness that goes beyond the ordinary perception of the road. It is never aggressive, but it is persistent, a quiet insistence that the area holds stories that refuse to remain hidden. Each encounter contributes to the Rowada's reputation as a place where reality and the unexplained intersect. Fog and mist are frequent companions along the route, adding layers of uncertainty and concealment. Headlights illuminate swirling clouds that seem to form shapes before dissolving into nothing. Shadows appear to shift independently of light sources, and the sounds of the forest of rustling leaves, snapping branches, distant calsa gain a heightened, almost communicative quality. The environment becomes an immersive experience, drawing travelers into a heightened state of awareness, where every movement, sound, and reflection carries meaning. Deadwood Rowada's allure is in its quiet tension, the blend of natural beauty and unexplained phenomena. Drivers emerge from the forest at dawn, the morning light casting the road in clarity once more. Shadows retreat, sounds soften, and the figure on the roadside, if seen, disappears into memory. Yet those who have traveled the road carry the impressions of the night with them, a sense of wonder, unease, and curiosity. The road remains as it always has, winding, narrow, and flanked by thick woods that, every crack in the asphalt, every snap of a branch, and every glimpse of light in the darkness, contributes to the ongoing narrative of Deadwood Road. Travelers leave with more than a journey completed. They carry a story, a brush with the unknown, and a lasting impression that some places exist, where the ordinary and mysterious intersect, quietly watching, waiting, and enduring the shadows of the forest. The Roe River Loop winds through the dense forest near Cottage Grove, Oregon, a narrow stretch of road where fog often settles low in the valley. Travelers driving along the loop often feel a heightened sense of awareness. The quiet of the forest broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves, or the distant call of a bird. As darkness falls, the road transforms. Headlights pierce through the fog, illuminating stretches of pavement that seem to stretch endlessly. Many drivers report hearing footsteps along the shoulder of the road, soft but deliberate, as if someone is walking just beyond the reach of vision. The sound follows for moments, sometimes seeming to pace with the vehicle, before fading into the mist. Cars themselves behave strangely along this route. Sudden bumps or jolts occur without explanation, startling drivers who find no debris or obstruction on the road. Tires press over smooth asphalt, yet the sensation is unmistakable, as though something unseen has brushed against the vehicle. These occurrences are brief but vivid, leaving a lasting impression on those who experience them. One of the most enduring accounts involves a figure in old-fashioned clothing. He appears along the roadside, standing silently, watching cars as they pass. The man does not move or speak, and when approached he vanishes, leaving only the faintest trace in memory. His presence adds to the eerie tension of the loop, a reminder that the road is not merely a stretch of asphalt, but a place steeped in history and the unknown. The surrounding forest amplifies these experiences. Towering trees rise along the edges of the road, their branches forming dark silhouettes against the foggy night sky. Shadows shift with the movement of headlights, creating shapes that can startle even seasoned travelers. The air feels heavier in the mist, thick with moisture and the sensation of being observed. Every sound is magnified, every movement in the corner of the eye is noticed, and every bend in the road carries the potential for another encounter. Travelers often describe a sense of isolation. The loop is quiet, far removed from the bustle of town, with only the sound of the engine and the occasional bird or rustling leaf to break the silence. This solitude amplifies the subtle occurrences of footsteps, bumps, and fleeting figuresa, creating an atmosphere of tension that is hard to shake. The road feels alive, as if it remembers every traveler who has passed through and responds in kind to their presence. Even during the day, the fog transforms the landscape. Sunlight struggles to penetrate the dense canopy, creating pools of muted light and shadow that shift with the wind. Drivers often notice movement in the trees or along the roadside, shadows that vanish when looked at directly. The experience is immersive, drawing attention to every detail and heightening the sense of connection to the surroundings. Local history adds depth to the road's reputation. The Roe River Loop has seen decades of travelers, from early settlers to modern-day visitors. Stories of unexplained events have persisted over time, carried forward in whispered accounts and shared experiences. These tales contribute to the aura of the road, giving each encounter a sense of continuity, as though the past remains present in subtle ways. For many, the experiences on the loop are not violent or threatening, but they are unforgettable. Drivers and passengers describe moments of wonder mixed with unease, the realization that the road itself holds mysteries that cannot be fully explained. The footsteps, bumps, and silent figures become part of the landscape, in a way that is both captivating and haunting. The fog is a constant companion along the Roe River Loop, softening edges and blending the boundaries between road and forest. The mist carries the weight of history and memory, a shroud that links the present with events and presences that may have occurred long ago. The loop is narrow, with twists and curves that demand attention. Each bend can obscure what lies ahead, creating moments of anticipation and surprise. The forest seems to lean in close, branches brushing the sides of vehicles, while shadows and light play across the road in shifting patterns. Encounters with a man in old clothing are particularly vivid. He appears without warning, standing at the edge of the road, perfectly still, his gaze fixed on passing vehicles. Drivers report a sudden chill or the sensation of being watched, and in the next moment, he disappears. These experiences are brief, yet powerful, leaving those who witness them with a lingering sense of awe and curiosity. The footsteps along the shoulder of the road are another recurring phenomenon. Soft and measured, they sometimes seem to follow vehicles for stretches before fading into the fog. Drivers pause, scanning the trees and road edges, yet nothing is ever seen. The presence is felt rather than observed, a quiet reminder that the Roe River Loop holds secrets that are not immediately visible. The bumps and jolts felt by vehicles add a physical dimension to the mystery. Tires press against smooth asphalt, yet the sensation of impact is undeniable. Objects remain in place. The road remains clear. But the feeling persists, brief and unexplainable. These moments heighten tension, making every drive along the loop an experience charged with anticipation. The Roe River Loop is more than a road. It is a space where natural beauty and unexplained occurrences coexist. The fog, forest, and narrow curves create an immersive environment, while footsteps, bumps, and silent figures bring a subtle, lingering presence. Travelers leave with memories that are vivid and mysterious, stories that are retold and added to the ongoing narrative of the loop. Driving to the Roe River Loop is an encounter with history, nature, and the unknown. The fog shifts, shadows dance, and unseen presences make themselves felt. Each journey becomes part of the Roata-esque story, a thread in a tapestry that blends reality with the unexplained, leaving a lasting impression on every traveler who ventures into its quiet, mist-filled path. The Sandium Wagon Road winds through the dense expanse of the Willamette National Forest, its path carved through towering pines and rugged terrain. The road is a ribbon of history, stretching across valleys and hills that once bore the weight of travelers seeking passage through the wilderness. Sunlight filters through the canopy in the day, casting dappled patterns across the uneven ground. Yet as evening falls, the forest transforms, and the road carries an air of quiet, lingering sorrow. The history of the Sandium Wagon Road is steeped in hardship. Stagecoaches and wagons once traveled its narrow path, navigating steep grades and treacherous curves. Stories passed down through generations speak of accidents, overturned carriages, and lives lost along the way. Travelers move cautiously, aware of the road's challenges, yet there was always a sense of urgency, of purpose, as the journey promised connection and commerce in a remote, unforgiving landscape. Even today, the echoes of those journeys can be felt. At night, some visitors report seeing the faint outline of a horse-drawn carriage moving along the road. The shape is often described as ethereal, gliding silently over the path, wheels absent, yet unmistakably a stagecoach in motion. It is a fleeting vision, appearing at the edge of awareness, disappearing when approached, leaving only the memory of movement in its wake. The sounds of the whinnies echo from the trees, carried on the wind as if horses are pacing unseen past a road, fading only to return moments later. Listeners describe a sense of being observed, the subtle impression that the forest itself holds the memory of every traveler who once passed through. The terrain around the wagon road adds to its eerie quality. Steep embankments line certain sections, and the road curves sharply between ancient evergreens. Fog often rolls in during cooler nights, weaving between trunks and branches, softening the outlines of the trees and cloaking the path in a muted gray. In these conditions, the forest feels alive, as if every shadow and sound is amplified, each rustle of leaves carrying significance. Some hikers and drivers report more than just shapes and sounds. Footsteps, light and measured, sometimes follow travelers along the road. There is no sign of a companion, no figure visible among the trees, yet the rhythm of movement is unmistakable. Pausing to listen, many notice the subtle shift in the air, the temperature dropping slightly, the faint sound of hooves striking the earth, though none can be seen. The history of tragedy along the road is ever present in these experiences. Overturning wagons, travelers who never reach their destinations, and goods lost in mudslides or rivers, all contributed to a legacy that the forest seems to retain. The weight of memory is embedded in the soil, in the shadows cast by towering pines, and in the occasional flicker of shapes at the edge of sight. It is a landscape where the past is never fully gone, where echoes of human struggle continue to resonate. Night amplifies the road's mysterious qualities. The forest grows dense and silent, with only the occasional rustle of leaves or distant animal call. The spectral carriage often appears, moving steadily along the worn path. Witnesses describe the sight as hauntingly beautiful, the outlines of horses and carriage shimmering as if glimpsed through a heat haze. Silent and smooth in motion, unbound by gravity or sound. Whinnies and soft calls seem to interact with the environment, echo through the valleys and rebound off ridges, creating the illusion of multiple horses moving in unison. Sometimes the sounds appear right behind travelers, fading only as footsteps continue down the road. The auditory experience is as vivid as the visual, adding a dimension that reinforces the sense that the road itself remembers. Every journey, every accident, every traveler who never made it through. Even those who approach the Sanium Wagon Road during the day report a sense of presence. The weight of history is tangible, a subtle pressing of air that cannot be explained by wind alone. Trees appear closer together, shadows deeper, and sounds of wildlife somehow muted, as though the forest is holding its breath. The road is no longer merely a route through the wilderness. It becomes a space where past and present converge, where memory and reality coexist in quiet tension. The Roada's isolation contributes to its effect. Miles of wilderness stretch uninterrupted, the nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The nearest signs of modern life distant and muted. This solitude allows the impressions of the past to emerge more vividly. A creaking branch may be mistaken for a wagon wheel, the rustle of foliage for a horse moving among the undergrowth. Visitors often feel compelled to pause, to listen, and to respect the sense of continuity that pervades the forest. The Sanium Wagon Road is more than a historic route. It is a living archive of human experience, tragedy, and endurance. Each bend in the road, each shadow cast by ancient trees, holds fragments of stories long forgotten yet not entirely gone. The carriage that glides silently, The whinnies that echo endlessly and the faint footsteps that follow all speak to a landscape that is alive with memory. For those who travel the road at night, the experience is immersive. The past seems to merge with the present, every step carrying the weight of history. The forest and road together create an atmosphere that is both haunting and captivating, where beauty and sorrow coexist, and where the unseen is always felt. Travelers leave with memories of shapes, sounds, and sensations that linger, a reminder that the Sanium Wagon Road preserves not only the path itself, but the echoes of all who have journeyed along it. The Sanium Wagon Road endures as a symbol of perseverance and mystery. Its forests, valleys, and hills hold stories that cannot be read in books or maps. The ethereal carriage, the endless whinnies, and the subtle movements along its path form an invisible narrative, one that continues to unfold for every traveler who dares to move through the forest at night. It is a place where history breathes, and where the road itself whispers the enduring legacy of journeys past. High in the mountains of central Oregon, Mackenzie Pass winds through rugged terrain, a twisting road carved from volcanic rock and ancient forests. By day, the route offers breathtaking views of peaks, meadows, and distant lakes, a journey through Naturia-esque grandeur. By night, the same road takes on a different character, shrouded in mist and silence, where the ordinary rules of perception seem to shift. Fog gathers quickly along the pass, thickening as the sun dips below the horizon. Headlights pierce the haze only briefly, illuminating the sharp curves and jagged edges of the road. The mist softens sounds and diffuses light, creating an atmosphere that feels both intimate and infinite. Travelers report a heightened awareness in these conditions, a sense that every bend holds potential for the unexpected. Ghostly lights have been seen on curves where drivers insist no other vehicle is present. These lights move along the road or hover at the roadside, flickering in and out of view. Some appear like distant headlights, others like faint glows suspended in midair. Observers describe a sense of curiosity mixed with caution, as though the lights beckon but also warn. Many slow their vehicles instinctively, scanning the fog for any sign of the source, yet find only empty road and swirling mist. Beyond visual phenomena, travelers often report physical sensations. Some describe a feeling of hands brushing their shoulders, gentle and fleeting, though they are alone in the car. The sensation is never harmful, but it leaves a lingering awareness, a shiver that runs down the spine, and a quiet sense that the environment itself is alive. Even the most skeptical feel a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a tension that cannot be explained by wind or terrain, that they are not alone in the car, and that something is watching them from the shadows. The road's sharp turns and narrow lanes demand attention. Each curve requires careful navigation, yet the mind often drifts to the strange experiences reported along the pass. Shadows seem to cling to the edges of the forest, elongated and distorted by the fog and headlights. Every tree and rock takes on a presence of its own, the natural landscape amplifying the feeling of isolation. The feeling of isolation intensifies with each twist and turn in the road. Yet the mind often drifts to the strange experiences reported along the pass. Each curve requires careful navigation, yet the mind often drifts to the strange experiences reported along the pass. Every tree and rock takes on a presence of its own, the natural landscape amplifying the feeling of isolation. The natural landscape amplifies the feeling of isolation. Shadows seem to cling to the edges of the forest, elongated and distorted by the fog and headlights. Shadows seem to cling to the edges of the forest, elongated and distorted by the fog and headlights. Locals speak cautiously of Mackenzie Pass after dusk. Many avoid it entirely at night, choosing alternative routes through the mountains. Those who do travel the pass after dark advise maintaining focus, keeping lights on full, and moving steadily through the fog. The stories they share carry a mixture of fear and respect, an understanding that the road has its own rhythm, shaped by history, nature, and something less tangible. The surrounding forests add to the sense of mystery. Tall evergreens line the road, their branches whispering in the wind, and volcanic rock formations rise abruptly from the ground, their dark silhouettes framed by mist. Sounds behave differently here, carrying strangely and sometimes amplifying subtle noises. A shifting branch, the distant call of an owl, or the echo of a tire over loose gravel can all take on a new significance in this environment. The pass itself has a long history. Volcanic activities shape the land, leaving jagged ridges, lava flows, and blackened rock fields that stretch for miles. Passing landmarks that seem both timeless and mysterious. Travelers sense that the land itself retains memory, an energy present in the stillness and shadows, lending the pass a character that feels older than human experience. Many who journey Mackenzie Pass at night describe a sense of time stretching. Minutes seem longer, distances more ambiguous, as the fog and twisting curves distort perception. Objects appear and disappear without warning. The combination of natural features, weather conditions, and subtle phenomena creates an environment in which the familiar becomes strange. Every sound or movement carries added weight. As the familiar becomes strange. Occasionally, vehicles stall or engines falter inexplicably. Lights dim, radios crackle, and the air seems to thicken. Drivers often restart their engines or move their cars slightly, and normal function returns. These occurrences are brief and often dismissed as mechanical quirks, yet they coincide with the more mysterious phenomena, leaving a lingering sense of unease. The pass holds a quiet beauty that contrasts with its mysterious reputation. Moonlight glimmers on rock formations, and distant peaks glow softly against the night. The fog moves like a living thing, rising. The fog hides and reveals the landscape. The combination of natural majesty and subtle strangeness creates an experience that is immersive, engaging, and unforgettable. Mackenzie Pass challenges perception and encourages attentiveness. Travelers report lingering impressions long after leaving the road, remembering the flicker of ghostly lights, the touch of unseen hands, and the eerie quiet that settles over the pass. The experience is never overtly threatening, yet it leaves a sense of being watched, of being part of something larger, mysterious, and alive. Even as dawn breaks, the pass retains its presence. The road returns to its daytime character, offering sweeping views of the mountains, meadows, and volcanic formations. Yet the memory of night on Mackenzie Pass remains, a reminder that the road holds secrets beyond ordinary perception, and that the mountains are not only a natural landscape, but also a space where subtle, unexplained energy lingers. Each journey along Mackenzie Pass becomes part of its ongoing story, blending the natural, the historical, and the mysterious. Travelers carry with them the echoes of shadowy figures, ghostly lights, and sensation of unseen hands. The road is more than asphalt and curves. It is an immersive experience, a place where the ordinary and extraordinary converge, leaving a lasting impression that continues to haunt memory long after the mountains are behind. Winding through the dense forests of Hood River County, the back roads stretch like veins branching off from the main highways. These narrow, tree-lined routes are often quiet, secluded, and easily overlooked by travelers seeking faster paths. By day, sunlight filters through the tall evergreens, casting dappled patterns across the asphalt and illuminating the moss-covered trunks and ferns below. Birds call from the treetops, and the occasional rustle of wildlife creates a sense of life within the stillness. Yet as evening approaches, these roads transform, taking on a more mysterious and sometimes unsettling character. Travelers at dusk often notice shadows moving between the trees. At first, it may seem like the natural play of light and foliage, yet the motion is deliberate, almost intentional, shifting against the patterns of the forest. Shapes appear and disappear in the peripheral vision, vanishing when focused on directly. The effect is subtle, but enough to leave a lingering unease, a feeling that the forest itself is alive with more than just animals and the wind. Sounds play a significant role in the atmosphere of these back roads. Soft crying or laughter has been reported by those driving through the winding paths. It is faint, often echoing from between the trees, impossible to trace to a source. These auditory anomalies create a sense of presence, as if someone or something has been there moments before and now remains just out of reach, observing from the shadows. Many drivers speak of unusual occurrences involving their vehicles. Cars are sometimes found parked at strange angles, away from the main road or in small clearings, yet the owners have no recollection of leaving them there. Keys are never missing and no signs of tampering exist, but the position of the vehicle suggests movement beyond the driver's awareness. These experiences are disorienting and contribute to the feeling that the backroads are unpredictable, holding a quiet authority that subtly asserts itself over those who pass through. The landscape along Hood River County backroads adds to the tension and mystery. Trees grow closely together, forming canopies that block the sky and create elongated shadows across the roadway. Fog often drifts in during the cooler months, softening outlines and muting sounds, creating an environment where the familiar becomes unfamiliar. Each turn of the wheel brings new perspectives, new pockets of darkness, and new glimpses of movement that cannot be explained. The effect is immersive, heightening every sense and drawing attention to the subtle anomalies of the forested environment. The narrowness of the roads and the dense vegetation also intensify the sense of isolation. Passing cars are rare, and the distant hum of the main highway often disappears completely. In these moments, the world outside the forest seems to vanish, leaving drivers alone with the sounds, shadows, and sensations of the trees around them. Every crack of a branch, every rustle of leaves, and every sudden shift in light feels amplified. Travelers report an acute awareness of their surroundings, a heightened perception that can be both thrilling and unnerving. Some visitors describe the feeling of being watched while navigating the backroads. It is not a physical threat, but a persistent awareness that something unseen is present. Eyes seem to follow from the tree line, though nothing visible emerges. Small, inexplicable movements of branches swaying in patterns inconsistent with the wind or fleeting shapes glimpsed through foga reinforce this impression. These moments create tension without aggression, an eerie yet compelling invitation to engage with the environment on a deeper level. The interplay between natural and unexplained elements defines the experience. The forest itself is alive, responding to the presence of travelers in subtle ways. Shadows shift independently of light sources, sounds emerge where none should exist, and the paths seem to bend and stretch, creating fleeting illusions of direction. The backroads hold a narrative of their own, written not in signs or maps, but in movement, sound, and the delicate balance between the visible and the unseen. Those who travel Hood River County backroads often speak of moments that linger long after the journey ends. A fleeting figure in the distance, a sudden chill that brushes across the skin, or the sound of laughter fading into the night becomes part of the memory. Cars appear in odd places, shadows seem to linger longer than they should, and the road itself retains a sense of quiet authority. The combination of isolation, natural beauty, and subtle anomalies creates an experience that is both memorable and disquieting. By morning, sunlight penetrates the forest canopy, casting warm light across the roads and clearing the fog that clung to the treetops. The shadows retreat, the sounds fade. The vehicles that were once inexplicably moved are found in positions more aligned with expectation. Yet the impression of the night remains, an invisible trace of the forest's hidden life. Travelers leave with a heightened awareness of the ordinary world, having glimpsed a space where nature, history, and something just beyond perception intersect. Hood River County backroads endure as a place where the mundane and the mysterious meet. Every turn, every shadow, and every faint sound contributes to an ongoing story written by the forest itself. Visitors depart carrying more than memories of trees and pavement. They take with them the subtle, lingering sense that some roads exist not only to guide passage, but to offer moments of curiosity, tension, and wonder, where the boundary between what is seen and what is imagined remains intentionally blurred. Opal Creek Road winds quietly through the dense forests of Marion County, a narrow stretch of pavement that threads through towering trees and ancient growth. Sunlight filters through the canopy, casting dappled patterns on the road. Yet there is an undercurrent of stillness that feels almost timeless. The air is thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and travelers often notice a subtle shift as they enter the forest, a sense that they are leaving the ordinary behind. As the road curves deeper into wilderness, mist clings to the edges of the pavement, curling around the bases of old trees and drifting across moss-covered rocks. Visitors have described a sensation of being watched, a quiet awareness that seems to follow each turn and bend. The forest itself feels alive, as though it remembers every traveler who has passed through over the decades. Some drivers report hearing whispers carried on the wind, voices speaking in languages that are impossible to recognize. The sounds are soft and fleeting, often fading when one tries to focus on them. They seem to drift from the trees themselves, a chorus of voices that blend with the rustle of leaves and the occasional call of a distant bird. The effect is subtle yet haunting, leaving a sense of mystery that lingers long after the sounds have passed. Along the roadside, misty figures are sometimes seen moving just beyond the edge of vision. They appear and vanish without warning, pale and indistinct, their forms shifting like smoke in the early morning light. When approached, they dissolve into the fog, leaving no trace behind. These encounters are brief but memorable, moments that make travelers question what is real and what is imagined. The deeper one drives along Opal Creek Road, the colder the air becomes. A chill settles in the bones, rising even on warm days. And the fog thickens, curling between tree trunks and along the sides of the road. The temperature drop is subtle at first, then more pronounced, as if the forest itself is drawing the warmth from the air. The effect heightens awareness, making each sound, shadow, and movement feel more immediate. The road narrows in places, bordered by steep banks and dense undergrowth. Every bend reveals a new stretch of forest, ancient and untouched, with towering trees that seem to touch the sky. Light filters through in shifting patterns, casting long shadows that stretch across the pavement. These natural illusions often create shapes that appear humanoid, fleeting glimpses that vanish when the eyes are fixed upon them. Travelers often describe a feeling of isolation, even when other cars are present. The forest swallows sound and the mist diffuses light, creating a world where the boundaries between road and wilderness blur. Footsteps, whispers, and movement in the fog seem to belong to another realm, a presence that is subtle but undeniable. It is as if the forest itself is conscious, aware of every visitor and every journey along its ancient path. The creek alongside the road adds another layer of atmosphere. Occasionally, the sound of running water mingles with whispers or rustling leaves, creating an auditory tapestry. The creek seems to guide travelers deeper into the forest, its gentle flow a constant companion to the twisting path. Misty figures are not the only phenomena reported along Opal Creek Road. Shadows shift independently of trees, and shapes appear at the edge of vision, dissolving when approached. Even in daylight, there are moments when the forest feels thick with memory, a sense that the land has witnessed countless events and holds them close. Travelers report a heightened awareness of every sound and movement, a sensitivity to the energy that pervades the forest. The combination of fog, trees, and misty figures creates a cinematic quality to the journey. Each turn and bend feels deliberate, as though the road itself guides a traveler through a living narrative. The interplay of light and shadow, the whispers on the wind, and the cold that deepens with distance all contribute to an immersive experience that engages the senses fully. Local history adds depth to the Rowata's enigmatic character. Opal Creek has been a place of logging, settlement, and exploration for decades, and countless travelers have passed along this route. Each visitor adds to the collective memory of the forest, and the whispers, figures, and sensations that are experienced today are echoes of those who came before. The road becomes a thread connecting past and present, a space where history and mystery intertwine. Even when leaving the deeper sections of the forest, the sensations linger. The chill may fade and the mist may thin, but the memory of whispers and misty figures remains. Travelers often recount their experiences with a mix of awe and curiosity, noting that Opal Creek Road is unlike any other stretch of road, a place where the ordinary blends seamlessly with the extraordinary. Driving along Opal Creek Road is a journey into both nature and mystery. Every curve, shadow, and whisper contributes to a narrative that is both subtle and compelling. The ancient forest, the mist, the creek, and the faint echoes of forgotten travelers create an environment where imagination and perception intersect, leaving an indelible mark on those who venture along this path. Opal Creek Road is more. A living corridor through history and wilderness. A place where every journey is unique, and where the forest's ancient presence is felt in every turn and bend. A landscape where nature and the unexplained coexist in quiet, haunting harmony. Invites travelers to witness its mysteries, feel its subtle energy, and experience a landscape where nature and the unexplained coexist in quiet, haunting harmony. The Santiam Highway near Detroit Lake is a road that transforms with the setting sun. By day, it is scenic and inviting, framed by towering pines, rolling hills, and the shimmering waters of the lake below. Sunlight dances across the asphalt, and the route is filled with travelers enjoying the beauty of the Willamette National Forest. Yet as dusk approaches, the landscape shifts. Fog drifts across the lake, rolling onto the highway in slow, silent waves. The world becomes quiet, save for the faint sounds of wind through the trees and the occasional splash from the lake. The fog clings to travelers, wrapping around their vehicles and creating the sense of entering a separate realm, a space where reality feels suspended and the ordinary rules of the forest no longer apply. It is in this fog that many report strange sightings. Glowing eyes appear at the edge of the trees, staring without blinking, following the movement of cars or the faint glow of taillights. They are distant and unmoving, yet their presence is undeniable, sending a shiver down the spine. For a moment, the observer is frozen, unsure if the lights belong to animals or something less tangible, only to find that they vanish when approached or when the headlights sweep past them. The road itself seems alive at night. Travelers describe silhouettes crossing the asphalt, figures that appear briefly, their outlines human yet indistinct. These shapes move deliberately, step by step, and then disappear entirely into thin air, leaving no trace of passage. Some see them at a distance, frozen in place as though observing the travelers, only to vanish completely when they draw near. It is a phenomenon that defies explanation, a quiet interruption that leaves witnesses questioning their own senses. The forest lining the highway contributes to the eerie atmosphere. Branches sway even when the air is still, casting shadows that stretch across the fog. Sounds of wildlife occasionally break the silence, yet even these familiar noises feel different, amplified, and distorted, as if the environment itself is reacting to the presence of travelers. Every step along the shoulder, every turn of the wheel, seems to echo farther than it should, reinforcing the sense that the road exists on a threshold between the natural and the inexplicable. Some travelers report feeling watched from multiple directions at once. Eyes in the forest, brief movements among the fog, and the lingering impression of figures standing at the roadside create a tension that is difficult to shake. The highway itself seems to extend and twist unnaturally, each curve leading deeper into shadow, each incline hiding unseen elements just beyond perception. Even seasoned drivers find themselves slowing, scanning the edges of the road for a hint of what might be following, or waiting for the next shape to materialize. Each curve leading deeper into shadow, each incline hiding unseen elements just beyond perception. The lingering impression of figures standing at the roadside create a tension that is difficult to shake. The interaction between light and fog plays a significant role in the highway's unsettling reputation. Shapes emerge, shift, and vanish in the beams, creating illusions of movement. Shadows stretch unnaturally, and reflections on wet pavement can suggest the presence of figures where none exist. Yet the consistency of reports over decades suggests that there is more at play than mere optical trickery. Isolation amplifies the experience. After dark, the highway is sparsely traveled, and the surrounding forest muffles distant sounds. Occasional vehicles break the quiet, their engines echoing off hillsides. But for the most part, travelers find themselves alone with the fog, the trees, and the intermittent glow of unseen eyes. The mind becomes hyper-aware, interpreting every shift in light or sound as meaningful, a response to the sense that something unseen is present, watching, and moving with quiet intent. The lake itself plays a role in the haunting ambience. Its waters, usually calm and reflective during the day, take on a different character at night. Waves lap softly against the shore, yet some claim to hear sounds that suggest motion far larger than expected. Reflections in the water occasionally show movement along the edges of the trees, only to vanish when looked at directly. The combination of fog, water, and darkness creates an environment that is immersive, compelling, and undeniably strange. Travelers along the Sanium Highway often share stories of the inexplicable. Eyes in the forest, fleeting silhouettes on the road, whispers carried on the wind, and the sense of being followed all contribute to a narrative that has persisted for generations. The highway is a place where human perception is tested, where natural beauty and subtle terror coexist, and where history and memory seem to linger just beyond the veil of sight. The experience is not violent, but it is unforgettable. Every turn, every bend, and every moment spent traveling to the fog leaves a lasting impression. Witnesses describe heightened senses, a cautious respect for forest, and a lingering curiosity about what might truly inhabit the darkness alongside them. The Sanium Highway becomes more than a route from one point to another. It is a journey through atmosphere, history, and the unknown. By morning, the highway resumes its ordinary appearance. The memory of the previous night lingers. Travelers recall the glowing eyes, the silhouettes that vanished, and the quiet tension that accompanied every mile. The Sanium Highway remains a place of natural beauty, history, and subtle horror, a space where the extraordinary quietly coexists with the ordinary, leaving those who traverse it with stories that cannot easily be forgotten. The Sanium Highway near Detroit Lake endures as both a scenic route and a place of mystery. Its fog-laden nights, glowing eyes, and disappearing figures create an atmosphere that is immersive and haunting. Travelers leave carrying memories of shapes and sound that defy explanation, a reminder that some roads are more than pathways. They are thresholds where the natural world intersects with the unknown. Trillium Lake Road winds quietly through the dense forest near Mount Hood, a narrow path bordered by towering evergreens and the still waters of the lake. By day, the route offers serene views of snow-capped peaks reflected in the water, and the gentle ripple of the lake carries the calm of the surrounding wilderness. By night, however, the road takes on a different presence, subtle and intangible, where the ordinary sounds of nature mingle with something far more mysterious. Travelers often report the faint scent of smoke and old campfires lingering in the air. The aroma is distinct, nostalgic, and unmistakable, yet when they look around, there are no fires burning, no evidence of recent camping. It drifts through the trees and along the roadside, a ghostly reminder of gatherings long past, evoking a sense of history that is both comforting and unsettling. Reflections in puddles along the road are another source of intrigue. Visitors describe seeing figures appear within the still surfaces of water, shapes that vanish the moment they are looked at directly. The reflections seem almost deliberate, catching the eye and holding it for a moment before dissolving into ripples. It is as though the environment itself is aware, showing glimpses of something that exists just beyond perception. Shadows move along the tree line, shifting subtly with the dimming light of evening or the glow of headlights. They remain just beyond clear view, never fully revealed, watching silently as if guarding the road. Travelers sense these presences without seeing them directly, an intangible awareness that lingers in the corners of vision and amplifies the quiet of the forest. The road itself is narrow and winding, forcing travelers to navigate carefully. Each curve is bordered by dense growth, and the canopy above often blocks the moonlight, leaving the path cloaked in darkness. Sound are amplified here via the crunch of tires on gravel, the whisper of wind through needles, and the faint movement of unseen life within the forest. Every sensation is heightened. Every shadow gains weight, creating a landscape that feels both natural and slightly otherworldly. Even during the day, the energy along Trillium Lake Road can be felt, reinforcing the sense that the road is alive in a subtle, watchful manner. Visitors describe the lake itself as a mirror to the unseen. Its surface is often perfectly still, yet small ripples seem to appear without cause. Reflections shimmer with movement that cannot be traced, as if the water holds a memory of the forest and its countless travelers. Shapes emerge briefly, then vanish, leaving only the echo of their presence in the mind. The surrounding forest contributes to the atmosphere of quiet tension, grounding the experience in nature while adding an element of the unknown. Every step along the roadside seems to pull travelers further into a space where the natural and the mysterious intertwine. Cars that travel the road at night sometimes behave strangely. Headlights reflect off surfaces in unexpected ways, and minor sounds, like a soft thud or a scrape, are magnified against the silence. The combination of darkness, fog, and still water creates optical illusions that make figures appear in places where none should be. These experiences leave visitors with a heightened sense of presence, as though the road and forest are aware of their passage. The road and lake together create a landscape of quiet reflection, literally and figuratively. Travelers often pause to take in the views, yet even these moments are tinged with awareness. Shadows flicker at the edges of vision, reflections hint at movement in still water, and the faint scent of campfires reminds them that the area is layered with memory, both human and natural. Trillium Lake Road is a place where ordinary perception is challenged. The subtle movements, ghostly reflections, and lingering scents create an immersive experience, one that encourages attention to every detail. The environment is alive in a way that is not immediately visible, but it can be felt in the air, in the shifting light, and in the quiet awareness that accompanies every traveler. Even as dawn approaches, the forest and lake retain their quiet presence. Mist rises from the water, shadows retreat, and the air warms with sunlight. The road returns to its daytime character, serene and inviting, yet the experiences of night linger in memory. Travelers leave with a sense of having moved through a space where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist, a place where every ripple, shadow, and scent carries a subtle story. The mystery of Trillium Lake Road endures. Each visitor becomes part of its ongoing narrative, adding their own impressions and experiences to the subtle, watchful energy of the forest. Every journey along this road is a reminder that the extraordinary can be just beyond perception. Highway 242 winds to the rugged peaks of Mackenzie Pass, a twisting ribbon of asphalt carved into the volcanic mountains of Oregon. By day, the road offers breathtaking vistas, with jagged ridges and ancient lava flows stretching across the horizon. The air is crisp and clear, carrying the scent of pine and earth, and the occasional glimpse of wildlife adds life to the serene landscape. Yet as daylight fades, the highway transforms, revealing a more mysterious and unsettling presence that has captured the attention of travelers for decades. Fog descends suddenly along the pass, rolling in without warning. Visibility drops to mere feet, and the surrounding peaks disappear into obscurity. Headlights pierce the mist with limited effect, illuminating only short stretches of asphalt before fading back into the gray. In these moments, the familiar landscape becomes strange and disorienting, and the road feels suspended between the natural and the supernatural. Travelers often report seeing vehicles trailing them at impossible speeds. The cars appear in the distance, headlights cutting through the fog, only to vanish when approached. It is as though the highway itself is bending perception, creating fleeting illusions that defy logic. The effect is subtle at first, a flicker of movement in the corner of the eye, but intensifies with time, leaving drivers on edge, aware of every shadow and reflective surface. The sounds along Highway 242 are equally haunting. Footsteps echo along the guardrails, yet no one is present. The tapping or crunch of movement seems to follow vehicles as they navigate curves and inclines, vanishing abruptly when attention focuses directly on the source. The forested slopes and volcanic rock formations amplify these sounds, making them seem closer, sharper, and more deliberate than the natural world would allow. Some travelers have described encounters with a man in an old uniform, standing beside the road as fog thickens. His presence is sudden, appearing from the gray haze as though materialized from the mist itself. He waves to passing vehicles, a gesture both welcoming and strange, before vanishing entirely when approached. The uniform is described as historical, suggesting connections to a bygone era, and his disappearance leaves a lingering impression that blends curiosity, unease, and fascination. The road itself is narrow and winding, with steep drop-offs and sharp turns that require constant attention. Guardrails line certain sections, but the surrounding terrain often feels close, enclosing drivers within a natural corridor. The landscape amplifies every sound and shadow, making the highway a place where the environment and perception seem to interact in subtle, unsettling ways. Fog, wind, and darkness combine to create moments of disorientation that heighten the senses and encourage awareness of every movement, sound, and shift in light, making the highway a place where the environment and perception seem to interact in subtle, unsettling ways. The natural beauty of Mackenzie Pass contrasts sharply with these mysterious phenomena. Lava flows and volcanic formations speak of the Earth's ancient power, while dense forests and alpine meadows create pockets of calm. Yet within this majesty, travelers often feel a quiet tension, a sense that the highway holds stories that remain just beyond comprehension. Every curve and bend in the road becomes an invitation to notice the unusual, the fleeting and the unexplained. The unusual, the fleeting, and the unexplained. Highway 242's history adds layers to its enigmatic reputation. Centuries of human passage and natural change have shaped the landscape, and subtle traces of the past seem to linger in the fog and shadows. Drivers occasionally glimpse lights, figures, or movements that suggest a presence rooted in history, yet manifesting in ways that intersect with the present. These experiences are rarely threatening, but they create an undeniable awareness of the highway as a place where time and perception blend. The fog plays a central role in these encounters. It can appear suddenly, obscuring familiar landmarks, and transforming the landscape into an amorphous, gray expanse. Objects and figures emerge in the mist with startling clarity, only to dissolve moments later. The interplay of light, shadow, and fog creates a cinematic quality along the highway, making every turn a potential scene of discovery, tension, and mystery. Travelers who navigate Highway 242 at night often leave with impressions that linger. The sudden presence of a uniformed figure, the echo of footsteps along the guardrails, or the fleeting glimpse of vehicles moving at impossible speeds, creates a narrative that exists beyond conventional explanation. Each encounter feels personal, yet ephemeral, a subtle reminder that the road holds layers of experience, memory, and perception that extend beyond the ordinary. By morning, sunlight returns to Mackenzie Pass, illuminating the peaks and valleys once more. Fog retreats, shadows shorten, and the mysterious figures and phenomena of the night fade into memory. The highway's presence remains, a place where the intersection of natural beauty and subtle mystery creates an experience that lingers in the minds of those who travel it. Drivers depart with more than a completed journey. They carry the impression of a landscape alive with both history and the inexplicable, a highway where the ordinary and the unknown coexist in quiet, haunting harmony. Highway 242 endures as a route that challenges perception and invites reflection. Travelers return to the road again and again, drawn by the promise of majestic views, the thrill of fog-shrouded curves, and the subtle awareness that along this winding highway, the past and present, the seen and unseen, intersect in ways that are unforgettable and deeply compelling. Cascade Highway stretches quietly through the dense evergreens of Lynn County, a remote road where the trees rise tall and thick along both sides, casting long shadows across the asphalt. The isolation of the highway is striking, the silence broken only by the rustle of wind through branches and the occasional call of a distant bird. The air along Cascade Highway often carries sudden cold spots. Drivers report windows fogging from chills that seem to appear without warning, a stark contrast to the surrounding weather, a brief but intense brushing across the skin, and leaving a lingering sensation that something unseen is present. Even on clear nights, The temperature can drop abruptly in isolated stretches, heightening awareness and sharpening every sound along the road. Some travelers experience a more unsettling phenomenon. Phantom car engines revving behind them are reported frequently, the roar of tires on pavement echoing in the otherwise quiet forest. Mirrors reflect only empty road, and the air carries no vibration to suggest that another car is near. The experience leaves drivers startled and attentive, the sensation of being followed persisting long after the noise disappears. Locals speak of the Roada's dark history. Decades ago, a tragic accident claimed the lives of an entire family, and many believe that the highway remains cursed by the event. Tales of sudden apparitions, unexplained cold, and phantom sounds are often linked to this tragedy. The forest seems to hold a memory of what occurred, embedding the highway with an energy that is felt by anyone who travels it at night or in foggy conditions. The stretches of road are long and winding, bordered by evergreens that rise like silent sentinels. Shadows twist across the pavement as headlights cut through darkness, creating shapes that appear almost human in form. Travelers often pause, noticing movements or figures that vanish when observed directly, contributing to a growing sense of unease. Every curve of the highway seems deliberate, revealing both beauty and tension in equal measure. The isolation intensifies the experience. With few towns or lights nearby, each vehicle becomes acutely aware of its own presence. Sounds are magnified to the distant snap of a branch, the whisper of wind through leaves, or the sudden groan of a tree trunk settling. These ordinary noises take on a strange quality, amplified by the stillness and the forest's density, and are often mistaken for something far more sinister. Some who drive Cascade Highway at night describe fleeting glimpses of figures at the edges of vision. Shadows seem to step from the forest floor, pause along the roadside, and then vanish when approached. These figures are often indistinct, leaving only a fleeting sense of recognition and unease. Combined with the phantom engine sounds and sudden cold, the encounters create a layered experience of the highway that feels both real and intangible. The forest itself contributes to the Roada's mystique. Moss-covered trunks and thick undergrowth limit visibility, creating pockets of darkness, even during daylight hours. Fog often drifts through low valleys along the highway, softening outlines and transforming familiar shapes into illusions that can startle the unwary. These environmental features make each journey along the road unpredictable and immersive, engaging all the senses as travelers move deeper into the wilderness. Occasional clearings reveal glimpses of the surrounding hills and valleys, their quiet beauty contrasting with the tension of the trees. The juxtaposition of serene landscapes with the eerie atmosphere of the road amplifies the impact of any unexplained occurrences. Travelers find themselves scanning every shadow, listening to every sound, aware that the forest may conceal more than it reveals. Local accounts emphasize the persistence of the highway's energy. Many who live nearby speak of strange sounds in the distance, sightings of shadowy figures or unexplained cold that seems to drift down from the trees. The story suggests that the presence felt along the road is not fleeting, but a consistent element of its character. Travelers often leave with a heightened sensitivity, a sense that the highway has marked them with its quiet, persistent watchfulness. The architecture of the road itself contributes to the experience. Tight curves, sudden dips, and narrow shoulders create moments of tension and anticipation. The surrounding forest walls compress sound and limit sight lines, intensifying every sensation. A sudden rustle or an unexpected shadow can create an immediate, visceral reaction, making the journey feel cinematic, almost like a scene unfolding in real time. Even in daylight, subtle phenomena occur. Cold pockets, faint movement, and the occasional sense of presence remind travelers that the highway's energy is not limited to night. The mist rising from nearby streams or pooling in low spots adds a visual texture that enhances the forest's timeless quality, making each visit a unique encounter with the Roada's layered atmosphere. Driving along Cascade Highway is more than a simple passage through Lynn County. It is a journey into a landscape where history, tragedy, and the unexplained converge. Every curve, shadow, and sound contributes to an experience that is both immersive and haunting, leaving travelers with stories that endure long after they leave the forest behind. Cascade Highway stands as a place where natural beauty and eerie history coexist. The dense evergreens, winding pavement, and persistent chill create an environment that engages the senses fully. Phantom engines, fleeting figures, and sudden cold transform the road into more than just a route. It becomes a space where memory, energy, and mystery intersect in ways that are subtle yet undeniable. Every traveler along Cascade Highway participates in an ongoing narrative. Each step of the journey adds to the living memory of the road, a continuation of the presence left by past events and those who have felt it before. It is a space where caution blends with curiosity, where the ordinary merges with the extraordinary, and where the forest and the highway together create an experience that is unforgettable. As night falls, the evergreens cast long shadows over the asphalt. The cold spots linger, whispers may drift on the wind, and phantom engines can still be heard echoing along curves. Cascade Highway remains a corridor of mystery, a place where travelers encounter both nature and the unexplained, and where the presence of the past continues to shape every journey through its quiet, haunting landscape. Fall Creek Road winds through Lane County, framed by dense forest and the steady murmur of a nearby creek. By day, the road is serene, sunlight filtering through towering evergreens, casting shifting patterns across the asphalt. Birds call from the treetops, and the water of the creek glimmers in the light, creating a scene of natural beauty. Yet as evening falls, the road changes. Shadows deepen, and an unusual stillness takes hold, blanketing the forest in an almost tangible quiet. Drivers traveling after dark report hearing laughter echoing along the road. The sounds are faint at first, delicate and high-pitched, like children playing in the distance. Yet the road is empty, and there is no sign of life nearby. The laughter seems to circle, drifting from tree to tree, moving closer and then fading as though carried by the wind itself. It evokes a strange mixture of nostalgia and unease, pulling travelers into a heightened awareness of their surroundings. Some visitors have seen small figures moving between the trees. These shapes are fleeting, glimpsed only for a second, disappearing as soon as one looks directly at them. They appear to dart along the edges of the road, sometimes appearing near the creek before vanishing into the dense foliage. Their movements are quick and deliberate, creating an impression of purposeful presence, yet always just out of reach, leaving the observer questioning whether what they saw was real or imagined. Fog often rolls in thick over the road, particularly in the hours before midnight. It clings to the ground, creeping along the asphalt and swallowing the landscape in soft white sheets. Visibility drops to only a few feet, and familiar landmarks are obscured. The forest becomes a series of shapes and shadows, distorted by the haze. Lights from headlights diffuse in the fog, creating halos that illuminate the swirling mist but reveal little of what may lie beyond. Cars have been known to stall suddenly on Fall Creek Road. Engines sputter without warning, leaving drivers stranded in near silence, surrounded by the forest and the hum of the creek. These moments are brief but unnerving, the stillness of the stalled vehicle amplifying every small sound of the rustle of leaves, the distant call of an animal, the whisper of wind through branches. Drivers often restart their cars after a few moments, yet the sense of unease lingers, intensified by the isolation of the route. The combination of fog, forest, and creek creates an atmosphere that is both beautiful and mysterious. Trees rise on either side of the road, their branches twisting into shapes that shift in the corner of vision. Shadows stretch and merge in ways that seem deliberate, as if the forest itself is alive, observing the travelers who pass through it. Every sound is magnified to the crunch of tires over gravel, the snap of a branch, the soft movement of something unseen. Many who travel Fall Creek Road describe a sensation of being watched. It is subtle at first, a prickling at the edges of perception, then growing into the awareness that the forest and fog conceal more than just wildlife. Shapes flit between the trees. Laughter lingers longer than it should, and the air seems charged with quiet energy. It is an intimacy that is both unnerving and compelling, drawing visitors into the environment while keeping its secrets intact. The creek beside the road adds to the ethereal quality of the route. Its gentle babble contrasts with the stillness of the forest. Yet even the water seems to carry echoes. Some travelers report hearing splashes or small footsteps along the bank, even when no one is there. The sound blends seamlessly with the laughter and distant movements, creating an auditory tapestry that heightens a sense that the forest itself is participating in some unseen narrative. Travelers often report that the forest seems to respond to their presence. Shadows shift when looked at, and figures retreat into foliage just beyond reach. The fog rolls in patterns that suggest deliberate movement, and even the creek reflects shapes that appear momentarily before dissolving into its rippling surface. Every detail combines to create an environment that feels alive, charged with memory and observation, leaving those passing through acutely aware of their surroundings. The laughter, the figures, the stalling vehicles, and the swirling fog combine into a subtle narrative that engages all the senses. The ordinary elements of the road, the creek, the asphalt, the trees take on an uncanny quality, carrying traces of experiences that defy explanation. By morning, Fall Creek Road returns to its daytime serenity. Fog lifts, the forest is bathed in sunlight, and the sounds of nature dominate once more. Birds sing, the creek flows gently, and the road appears as familiar as ever. Yet those who have traveled at night carry a lingering memory of the laughter of children, the fleeting figures between the trees, the sudden stalls, and the enveloping fog. These impressions endure, a quiet reminder that the road is more than just a route through the forest. Fall Creek Road remains a place where the natural and the mysterious intersect. Its beauty is undeniable, yet beneath the surface lies a subtle tension, a presence that observes without interference. Drivers lead with memories that blend fear, curiosity, and awe, aware that the road has witnessed countless travelers over time, and that its forested path holds stories and phenomena that remain hidden, waiting for the next journey through its misty, shadowed expanse. Hoodview Road winds along the steep cliffs of Hood River, a narrow ribbon of asphalt hugging the mountainside. The road curves sharply at every turn, demanding focus and precision from drivers. By day, the views are breathtaking, with the Columbia River stretching into the distance and the surrounding forests vibrant in sunlight. By night, however, the road transforms into a space of quiet tension, where shadows and fog dominate the landscape. Travelers have reported seeing ghostly figures at the corners of the road. They appear briefly, just beyond the reach of headlights, often standing motionless or moving slowly along the cliffside. As the lights approach, the figures vanish, leaving nothing but the darkened road and the faint impression that someone had been there. The encounters are fleeting but leave a lingering sense of unease, as though the road itself holds a memory of those who once traveled it. Whispering voices are another common experience along Hoodview Road. The sounds drift from the trees, soft and unintelligible at first, but growing clear enough to feel directed. Travelers have described the voices as calling their names or murmuring phrases just beyond comprehension. There is no aggression in the tone, only an eerie persistence that seems to follow the vehicle as it moves through the curves and shadows. The cliffs rising alongside the road add to the atmosphere. Massive rocks loom overhead, their jagged forms outlined in faint moonlight or the glare of headlights. Trees cling to the mountainside, their branches swaying silently, and their movements can create shadows that appear to move independently. Every bend presents a new visual puzzle, where light, shadow, and fog combine to create fleeting images that seem alive. Locals often refuse to drive Hoodview Road after dark. The combination of narrow lanes, sharp curves, and reports of unexplained phenomena make it a road that demands respect. Those who venture out at night are aware of the isolation, the steep drop-offs, and the dense forest that encroaches on either side. The road is not merely a route to the landscape, but a space where perception and reality blur. The natural sounds of the area enhance the sense of mystery. Wind whistles through the trees. Rocks occasionally shift or tumble from higher slopes. And distant water from the Columbia River creates a low, constant hum. Whispered voices and glimpsed figures stand out, heightened by the quiet of the night and the isolation of the road. Headlights play a significant role in the experience. They illuminate the curves just long enough to reveal the road and the surrounding cliffs, yet often only highlight the absence of the figures that had been glimpsed moments before. Shadows stretch and distort across the pavement, and reflections in wet patches or roadside puddles can appear as shapes moving in the periphery, intensifying the sense of unease. The road itself demands constant attention. Sharp hairpin turns, steep inclines, and narrow shoulders require careful navigation. Travelers describe the feeling of being watched, an awareness that something unseen mirrors their every movement. The mind strains to interpret shadows, mist, and light, making every turn a balance between focus and heightened sensitivity to the surrounding environment. The cliffs above and below seem to hold history within their rock and soil that suggests movement or faces to the attentive eye. And the combination of geological time and human perception adds a layer of depth to the road, where natural formations and fleeting phenomena merge into a landscape rich with stories. Fog often rolls in unexpectedly, thickening the atmosphere and softening sounds. Headlights cut through the haze in narrow beams, revealing glimpses of roadside trees or cliff edges, while leaving much hidden. Figures may appear briefly within the mist, vanishing before they can be clearly seen. The fog amplifies every sound, every movement, and every fleeting shadow, creating an immersive environment that captivates and unsettles in equal measure. Even during moments of stillness, travelers report subtle sensations. A brush of air along the arm, a sudden drop in temperature, or the impression of presence just beyond the light. These experiences are never violent, but they leave an awareness that Hoodview Road is more than asphalt and curves. It is a space shaped by natural forces and something less tangible, a road where observation becomes part of the journey. The isolation of Hoodview Road contributes to its enduring mystery. There are few homes or signs of civilization along its path, and cell service is limited. The remoteness intensifies the effect of shadows, voices, and sudden movements, reminding travelers that they are traversing a landscape that is largely untouched, yet subtly alive. Every bend, every corner, and every curve becomes an opportunity for unexpected encounter. Sunrise or daylight does not entirely dispel the memory of night along the road. The travelers recall the shapes they glimpsed, the whispers they heard, and the fleeting sense of being watched. The road resumes its daytime character, offering stunning views of the river and mountains. Yet the experiences of the dark hours linger, embedded in perception and memory. Hoodview Road remains a place of quiet tension and haunting beauty. The curves along the cliffs, the figures glimpsed in shadow, and the whispers carried by the trees create an environment where natural majesty meets subtle mystery, leaving a lasting impression that endures long after the drive has ended. Clear Lake Road stretches to the heart of Klamath County, a narrow ribbon of asphalt bordered by dense pine forests. By day, sunlight filters through the towering trees, casting long, shifting shadows across the road. The scent of pine needles and earth fills the air, and the occasional rustle of wildlife provides a reminder of life in the surrounding forest. Yet as evening falls, the road takes on a different character. Quiet, desolate, and imbued with a sense of subtle unease has long drawn the attention of travelers and locals alike. Driving along Clear Lake Road at night, travelers often feel an inexplicable presence. Some report the sensation of unseen hands brushing against the steering wheel, a gentle pressure that seems to guide or test them. The feeling is never threatening, but it carries a weight that heightens awareness and transforms the journey into an experience of heightened perception. Faint lights appear in the distance along the road. These lights shimmer through the trees, delicate and stationary, never approaching and never retreating. Drivers find themselves drawn to the lights, instinctively slowing to get a better look. Yet as they advance, the lights remain in place. The lights contribute to the road's mysterious atmosphere, offering glimpses of something beyond ordinary explanation. while reinforcing the sense that Clear Lake Road exists in a space between the familiar and the unknown. The wind carries subtle, haunting sounds that are difficult to attribute to the natural environment. Soft singing is often reported, gentle and melodic, yet seemingly without a source. The notes drift through the forest, weaving between trees and blending with the whisper of the wind. The sound is faint but persistent, wrapping around travelers in a way that is simultaneously calming and eerie. It is as if the forest itself is attempting to communicate, leaving an impression that lingers long after the sound fades. The road is narrow and winding, with curves that appear suddenly from shadows. Tall pines flank each side, their trunks forming a dense barrier that obscures the sky and limits visibility. Fog and mist sometimes descend unexpectedly, transforming familiar stretches of road into a landscape of shifting shadows and muted outlines. These natural elements amplify the subtle phenomena, creating a sense of disorientation and quiet tension that persists throughout the drive. Isolation is a defining feature of Clear Lake Road. Few vehicles pass in either direction, and the sounds of civilization fade quickly once the road is entered. Every creak of the car, every rustle in the trees, and every distant animal call seems amplified, and sensations that might otherwise go unnoticed. Each moment becomes immersive, pulling the observer into the landscape in ways both intimate and unsettling. Some drivers report visual anomalies beyond the faint lights. Shadows seem to shift independently of light sources, forming shapes that suggest movement without substance. Branches sway in patterns that defy the wind, and occasional glimpses of indistinct figures in the forest heighten the sense of awareness. These experiences are fleeting, often leaving no trace other than a memory and a heightened sensitivity to the surrounding environment. Clear Lake Road's natural beauty contrasts sharply with its mysterious occurrences. Rolling hills, dense pines, and occasional clearings create moments of striking serenity, while the shadows, lights, and sounds evoke curiosity and unease. This duality defines the road's character, offering both a connection to the natural world and a subtle invitation to encounter something beyond the ordinary. Every drive along the route becomes a journey through both landscape and perception, where attention to detail reveals layers of the road that remain hidden under casual observation. Travelers describe the cumulative effect of these experiences as unforgettable. The sensation of presence, the distant lights, and the soft singing create a narrative that exists outside conventional explanation. Time seems to stretch along the road, with minutes feeling elongated and senses sharpened. Even after leaving Clear Lake Road, the impressions linger, leaving a quiet awareness that the forest holds stories, memories, and sensations that endure beyond a single journey. By morning, sunlight returns to the road, illuminating the pine trees and clearing the mist. Shadows shorten, the faint lights vanish, and the soft singing disappears into memory. Yet the road retains its reputation, a place where natural beauty and subtle mystery coexist. Travelers depart carrying the impression of having traversed a landscape alive with unseen presence, a journey that challenges perception and invites reflection. Clear Lake Road endures as more than a route through Klamath County. It is a space where isolation, natural majesty, and subtle phenomena merge, creating an experience that resonates long after the drive is complete. Every bend in the road, every flicker of light, and every faint whisper of wind contributes to an ongoing story written in shadow, sound, and sensation. This ongoing story is a testament to the power of nature to evoke emotions and inspire the imagination. Those who travel it leave with more than memories of forest and asphalt. They carry a sense of connection to something just beyond sight, a reminder that some roads exist to awaken the imagination and linger quietly in the mind. Salmonberry Trail winds through the dense expanse of Tillamook Forest, an abandoned logging road where the trees rise tall and thick, casting long shadows across the gravel. The forest is ancient, its evergreens and ferns creating a green canopy that filters sunlight into muted patterns on the road. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a bird, yet travelers often sense that the road itself is alive, holding memories of the labor and lives that once passed through it. The atmosphere changes as the daylight fades. Headlights cut through darkness and fog, illuminating stretches of gravel that seem to stretch endlessly into the forest. Along the road, visitors report hearing chains dragging across the surface, the metallic clatter echoing among the trees. The sound appears to have no source, yet it resonates with a deliberate rhythm, as though the forest itself recalls the echoes of logging work from long ago. Shadows are a constant presence on Salmonberry Trail. They shift just beyond the range of headlights, moving between tree trunks or across the road in ways that cannot be explained. Some appear humanoid, fleeting glimpses of form that vanish when approached, leaving only a lingering sense of unease. These shadows heighten the tension, transforming the simple act of driving to a forest into an immersive experience that engages every sense. One figure is often reported by travelers. Dressed in old work clothes, he appears along the roadside, silent and still, watching those who pass. When approached, the figure disappears, leaving behind only a cold draft or the faint scent of damp earth. Encounters are brief but vivid, leaving a lasting impression on anyone who witnesses them. The presence seems tied to the history of the road, a spectral echo of the people who once labored along its path. The road itself is narrow and winding, bordered by dense undergrowth and steep banks. Every turn presents new shadows, new glimpses of the forest's depth, and a heightened sense of anticipation. Light shifts with the movement of the vehicle, creating patterns on the gravel that sometimes take on shapes resembling forms just out of reach. Travelers describe a feeling of being observed, an awareness that the forest remembers, quietly recording every movement along the road. Isolation amplifies every experience. With few other vehicles and no nearby settlements, the rustle of leaves, the creak of a branch, and the distant echo of falling water are all heightened, blending with the subtle whispers of wind to create a living, breathing environment. Even the faintest sound can trigger a sense of presence, making the journey feel suspenseful and immersive. The forest floor adds to the atmosphere. Moss-covered rocks, fallen logs, and thick ferns line the edges of the trail. These natural features create a layered environment where shadows and light interact constantly, transforming familiar shapes into illusions that appear and vanish with movement. Travelers often report feeling the hair on their necks rise, a visceral reaction to the forest's subtle yet persistent energy. Chains and metal objects left from the roads, logging days, continue to play a role in the mystery. Rusted equipment and remnants of machinery contribute to the sounds that visitors hear. The dragging and clanging of unseen chains seems almost deliberate, a reminder of the labor that once defined the road. These auditory cues enhance the sense of history and presence, linking past and present in a way that feels tangible yet enigmatic. The figure in old work clothes is not the only anomaly. Shadows and shapes appear at the edge of vision, moving independently of trees or undergrowth. Their presence is subtle, a flicker or movement that vanishes when observed directly, yet it leaves an impression that is difficult to shake. These glimpses create a sense of continuity, a narrative that connects the living travelers with the echoes of those who walked the trail before. Fog often drifts through the forest, softening edges and creating a visual texture that enhances the Roada's mystery. Light from headlights reflects off the mist, forming patterns that can resemble figures or movement. The interplay of fog, shadows, and light transforms the road into a cinematic experience, making each journey along Salmonberry Trail unique. Even during the day, subtle phenomena continue to be reported. Sounds that resemble chains dragging, brief glimpses of figures, or sudden chills in the air are described by hikers and drivers alike. These experiences suggest that the energy along the trail is persistent, not limited to night or darkness. Travelers leave with a heightened awareness, a connection to the history and mystery embedded in the forest. The history of Salmonberry Trail adds depth to these experiences. The road was once a hub of logging activity, with countless workers and vehicles passing through over decades. The sounds, figures, and shadows that are observed today are often interpreted as echoes of that history, a subtle reminder that the forest retains memory long after the work has ceased. The trail becomes a living archive, preserving traces of human activity. And the energy of the forest itself. Travelers describe the road as both beautiful and unsettling. The ancient trees, dense ferns, and winding gravel path create a sense of immersion, while chains, shadows, and spectral figures add a layer of tension. Every bend in the road offers a new scene, a new moment to observe and experience, blending natural beauty with subtle mystery. Driving along Samberry Trail is a journey into both history and the unknown. Every sight, sound, and sensation contributes to a narrative that is compelling and immersive. The forest, the fog, the figures, and the echoes of work from decades past create an experience that is vivid and memorable, leaving a lasting impression on all who travel its path. Salmonberry Trail is more than an abandoned logging road. It is a corridor where past and present converge, where the natural world and the unexplained coexist, and where every traveler becomes part of a story that stretches across time. The trail invites exploration, reflection, and a quiet respect for the energy that lingers within the forest, a presence that is subtle, persistent, and unforgettable. Santiam Pass Road winds through the rugged mountains of Central Oregon, a route carved into slopes and valleys over decades of travel. By day, it is a breathtaking drive, framed by towering pines and jagged peaks, with snow-capped summits visible in the distance. Yet as the sun dips below the horizon, the road transforms, revealing a side that is quiet, shadowed, and steeped in mystery. Fog appears without warning along Santiam Pass Road. One moment the sky is clear, the next, a thick gray mist creeps across the asphalt, swallowing the surrounding landscape. Visibility drops rapidly, and familiar trees, rocks, and slopes dissolve into hazy outlines. Headlights pierce the fog only briefly, revealing glimpses of forest edges and distant ridges before the mist reclaims them. The fog is dense and silent, carrying with it a sense of isolation and heightened awareness. Travelers often report seeing ghostly figures along the edges of the road. These shapes appear and vanish with little warning, wandering among the trees or standing just beyond the guardrails. Some are fleeting glimpses, a shadow at the corner of vision, while others seem more deliberate, moving slowly as if pacing or observing. When approached, they disappear into fog or behind the dense pine trunks, leaving no trace and no explanation. Along with the figures, there are distant voices that some drivers hear. The calls are soft, barely audible at first, yet unmistakable. Names are whispered, seemingly carried on the wind, reaching travelers from unseen sources. The sound is subtle but clear, creating a sense of intimacy and unease. Listeners describe a chilling awareness, a feeling that the voices are connected to the very road and forest they traverse. Cars have been known to stall unexpectedly along the pass. Engines sputter and die without warning, leaving vehicles stranded on narrow stretches of asphalt. The effect is brief in most cases, and the engines restart with little difficulty. Yet the sudden stillness amplifies the isolation of the mountain road. In these moments, the fog seems to thicken and the surrounding forest appears closer, its shadows stretching across the pavement, heightening the sense of vulnerability and suspense. The geography of Santiam Pass contributes to its eerie reputation. Steep slopes rise on one side of the road, while deep valleys descend on the other. Switchbacks twist sharply, forcing drivers to focus intensely on each turn. At night, the silhouettes of cliffs and trees are distorted by the fog, creating illusions of movement and depth. Shadows merge and separate, forming shapes that seem alive, fleeting, and impossible to grasp. The forest itself is a character along the road. Pines and firs tower above, their branches swaying even in calm air. Rustling leaves create soft whispers that blend seamlessly with distant voices. Snow patches and rocks cast strange shadows under headlights, and streams that cross beneath bridges gurgle faintly, their sound echoing against the slopes. All of these elements combine to make travelers hyper-aware of their surroundings, their senses sharpened by isolation, fog, and the unfamiliar nocturnal environment. Some travelers describe moments when the road seems almost suspended in time. Figures appear at the roadside. Fog thickens suddenly. Vehicles stall in a way that feels deliberate. The movement of clouds across the moonlight can seem orchestrated. casting shifting light that accentuates the shapes and shadows, leaving the impression that Santiam Pass is more than just a route through the mountains. It is a space where the ordinary and the extraordinary intersect. The pass has long been a site of history, hardship, and human endeavor. Pioneers and early travelers braved the slopes in wagons and on foot, encountering snowstorms, treacherous terrain, and isolation. The landscape retains echoes of those journeys, embedded in the memory of the mountains and forests. Many suggest that the ghostly figures, voices, and stalled vehicles are manifestations of this history, a lingering presence of those who traversed the past long ago. Fog continues to roll unpredictably. Trees, rocks, and distant ridges appear and vanish within moments, creating a sense that the environment itself is in constant flux. Travelers must navigate with caution, not only because of the Roada S-curves and slopes, but also because of the unpredictable elements that heighten the sensation of unease and mystery. The cumulative effect of Santiam Pass Road at night is a heightened sense of awareness and tension. Figures in the fog, voices that call from unseen sources, sudden stalls, and the isolation of the mountain environment combine to create a profound, immersive experience. It is a place where travelers become acutely aware of their surroundings, where shadows, light, and sound are amplified, and where history and memory seem to linger just beyond perception. By dawn, the pass resumes its daylight character. Fog lifts, the sun illuminates the peaks and valleys, and the road feels familiar once more. Travelers who experience the night report vivid memories, ghostly figures, distant voices, the eerie stalling of vehicles, and the ever-present fog that seemed to breathe around them. Santiam Pass Road remains a place of beauty, history, and quiet terror, a space where the natural world and the inexplicable converge to leave an indelible impression on all who traverse it. The road endures as both a vital mountain route and a site of mystery. Travelers leave with stories and sensations that linger, a reminder that some places retain the memory of past journeys, the presence of unseen watchers, and the subtle pulse of the extraordinary. Santiam Pass Road is more than asphalt and scenery. It is a corridor where the mountains, fog, and forest hold secrets that continue to captivate, unsettle, and inspire those who travel its winding path. Pine Creek Road winds quietly through the forests of Douglas County, a narrow path largely forgotten by modern travelers. Trees crowd close to the edges, their branches forming an almost continuous canopy overhead, filtering sunlight and casting long shadows on the road below. The road is peaceful in daylight, a retreat into nature, but as dusk falls, the atmosphere changes, carrying with it an air of quiet unease. Travelers along Pine Creek Road have reported seeing a lone rider moving along the road. At first glance, it appears to be a person on horseback, moving steadily and silently. Yet, when approached or observed more closely, the figure remains, but the horse is nowhere to be seen. The vision leaves a lasting impression, a reminder that the road holds mysteries beyond ordinary understanding. Shadows flit between the trees, moving independently of wind or light. They seem alive, darting just beyond vision, only glimpsed from the corner of the eye. Sometimes they appear to follow travelers, shifting with their pace, retreating into the forest when looked at directly. The effect is subtle yet persistent, creating a sense that the woods themselves are watching, aware of every movement along the road. Whispers are another unsettling phenomenon reported by those who travel Pine Creek Road. These voices are low and indistinct at first, blending with the sounds of wind through leaves and distant wildlife. Gradually, they become clearer, articulating thoughts and fears that seem intimately known to the listener. Travelers often feel that the forest is listening, reflecting their own inner fears back to them in a way that is both intimate and disconcerting. The road is narrow, bordered by dense underbrush and ancient trees whose roots rise from the earth in tangled patterns. Each curve and incline requires careful navigation, yet the mind is often drawn to the subtle movements in the shadows, the shifting patterns of light, and the faint sounds carried on the wind. The environment heightens perception, making ordinary shapes and sounds seem charged with significance. Occasionally, Travelers notice changes in temperature. Cold spots appear suddenly along the path, lingering briefly before dissipating. The combination of visual anomalies, whispers, and temperature shifts creates an immersive experience, one that leaves a lasting imprint on memory. The forest along Pine Creek Road is old and dense. Moss covers the trunks of towering trees, and fallen leaves carpet the ground in a thick, soft layer. Sounds are muted and distorted, with every footstep or vehicle passing to amplify it against the quiet. Even in daylight, the road has a feeling of separation from the ordinary world, a space where time and perception seem subtly altered. Figures appear and disappear unpredictably. The lone rider may be seen moving along a stretch of the road, only to vanish when the path curves or when sunlight breaks through canopy. These experiences are never violent or threatening, yet they leave a sense of being in a space where the natural and the mysterious coexist. The whispers carry a peculiar quality, often synchronized with moments of stillness or when travelers pause to observe the surroundings. They echo faintly, sometimes overlapping with the sound of rustling leaves, creating a layered auditory experience. Each whisper seems deliberate, drawing attention to the unknown presence within the forest. Travelers leave with the impression that the road communicates in subtle ways, revealing itself only to those attentive enough to notice. Even during bright daylight, Pine Creek Road retains a quiet energy. Patterns of light and shadow shift through the trees, and fleeting movements at the edges of vision can still be observed. The forest seems to hold memory, recording the passage of travelers and events long past, and the road becomes a thread connecting these layers of time and presence. Isolation amplifies the experience. Few homes or signs of civilization line the path, and cell reception is often weak. The solitude intensifies awareness, making every sound and shadow more significant. Travelers notice subtle changes in the environment, from the movement of branches to the sudden appearance of shapes in the underbrush. Every journey along the road becomes a study in observation, perception, and the intersection of natural beauty with subtle mystery. The experience of Pine Creek Road lingers long after leaving. Memories of the rider, the shifting shadows, and the whispered words remain vivid. The road itself appears ordinary by day, yet those who have traveled at dusk or night know that it holds layers of presence unseen by the casual observer. The quiet curves, dense forests, and subtle phenomena create an environment both captivating and unsettling, a place where natural serenity and unexplained mystery converge. Each journey along Pine Creek Road adds to its enduring story. Travelers contribute their observations, impressions, and experiences, threading their own memories into the quiet energy of the forest, a space where shadows, whispers, and fleeting figures exist, alongside ancient trees and winding paths, a destination for those drawn to quiet beauty and subtle mystery, a road where the ordinary world and the unexplained meet, in a way that leaves a lasting, haunting impression. Cascade Lake's highway winds to the heart of Deschutes County, a twisting ribbon of asphalt flanked by dense forests, volcanic ridges, and a series of serene alpine lakes. By day, sunlight dances across the water, and the road offers travelers breathtaking views of pine-covered slopes and distant mountain peaks. But as night falls, the highway transforms, and the familiar landscape becomes a stage for subtle mysteries that have captured the attention of those who drive its curves after dark. Under the glow of moonlight, the lakes mirror the sky with a calm, glassy surface. Faint lights sometimes appear across the water, small points of illumination that seem to hover above the surface without movement or explanation. Drivers slow to observe them, yet as they approach, the lights remain distant, neither drawing nearer nor fading entirely. These elusive glimmers create an unsettling sense that the environment is aware of their presence, a silent invitation to notice the extraordinary amid the serene. Figures have been reported standing along the roadside. Tall and indistinct at first, they appear suddenly in peripheral vision, sometimes partially illuminated by headlights. When approached, the figures vanish, leaving nothing but empty road and forest behind. Their presence is fleeting yet tangible, a reminder that Cascade Lake's highway holds secrets that exist at the edges of perception. These encounters are often described as quiet and non-threatening, yet they linger in memory, shaping the experience of those who travel the highway at night. The air along the highway grows noticeably colder in certain stretches. Drivers describe a sudden icy chill that settles over the cabin of the vehicle, as though the environment itself holds a memory of something lost or forgotten. This coldness is distinct from a mountain chill, carrying an almost tangible weight that encourages attention and reflection. Paired with the appearance of the lights and figures, it creates an immersive sense that the highway is more than a passage to the mountains, but a corridor between the ordinary and the mysterious. The road twists and bends around volcanic ridges, with sharp curves and narrow shoulders demanding careful navigation. Guardrails provide protection along some lakesides, yet the terrain often drops abruptly. Leaves rustle in the wind, pine needles crack underfoot, and the occasional splash of a lake breaking the silence reinforces the feeling that the surroundings are alive with quiet presence. Fog and mist sometimes descend without warning, settling low over the asphalt and reflecting the headlights in an ethereal glow. Within this haze, the lakes shimmer like pools of silver, and shadows elongate into forms that seem to move independently of a natural light. Travelers describe moments where the ordinary road seems suspended in time, each turn revealing new angles, shapes, and sensations that provoke both awe and unease. The natural beauty of Cascade Lake's highway contrasts sharply with these subtle, unexplained phenomena. Towering pines and rugged volcanic formations frame each view, while calm waters reflect the moonlight and stars. Yet amid the serenity, the faint lights, disappearing figures, and icy air create a sense of tension, a reminder that the wilderness may hold experiences beyond rational explanation. Each journey becomes both a scenic drive and an encounter with the unknown. Sounds along the highway contribute to the eerie atmosphere. The wind through the trees carries occasional murmurs, soft echoes that seem almost human, yet impossible to place. Ripples across the lakes can sound like distant footsteps, and branches shifting in the breeze suggest movement just beyond sight. These auditory cues heighten awareness, drawing attention to subtle details and fostering a sense of connection with the landscape, as though the environment itself is attentive to the travelers passing through. Many who travel Cascade Lake's highway at night report a lingering impression long after leaving the mountains. The fleeting figures, the lights hovering over the lakes, and the sudden icy air remain vivid in memory. These elements combine to form an experience that is both cinematic and deeply personal, a journey where natural beauty and subtle mystery coexist, challenging perception and leaving travelers with more than a scenic memory. By morning, the highway returns to familiar clarity. Sunlight illuminates the lakes and forests, and shadows shorten across the road. The mysterious figures and lights vanish into the distance, leaving no trace beyond memory. Yet the highway endures, a place where travelers are invited to experience both the majesty of Deschutes County and the quiet, haunting presence that lingers in the night. Cascade Lake's highway is more than a mountain road. It is a path where isolation, natural beauty, and subtle mystery intersect. Every bend, lake, and shadow contributes to an ongoing story of the highway itself, a journey that encourages reflection, curiosity, and awareness of the extraordinary that can be found just beyond sight. Travelers leave with more than a completed drive. They carry the memory of a road alive with history, nature, and quiet mysteries waiting to be discovered. Bear Creek Road winds quietly through Jackson County, flanked on both sides by dense, towering forest. The trees rise like silent sentinels, their thick canopies blotting out sunlight and casting long, shifting shadows across the asphalt. The road is narrow and winding, and the isolation is immediate, with few signs of life beyond the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a bird. Travelers often feel as if they have entered another world, a space removed from ordinary life, where the forest itself is watching and waiting. As night falls, the atmosphere deepens. Headlights cut through fog and darkness, illuminating short stretches of road before they disappear into shadowy depths of the trees. Many drivers report a heavy presence in the back seat, an inexplicable sensation of being accompanied by someone unseen. It is subtle at first, a shift in air or weight, but persistent enough to make the experience feel intimate and unsettling. Soft cries drift from the trees, carried on the wind like echoes from another time. The sounds are faint yet distinct, a mournful resonance that seems to weave through the forest, blending with rustling leaves and the whisper of branches. Travelers often skim the roadside, searching for a source, yet see nothing. The cries fade and return, creating an atmosphere that is at once haunting and mesmerizing, a reminder that Bear Creek Road is not simply a path to the forest, but a corridor imbued with presence. Figures have been seen walking along the edge of the road. Pale and indistinct, they move slowly, sometimes just beyond a range of vision. When approached or illuminated by headlights, they vanish into fog, leaving only the lingering impression of a form that was never fully tangible. These encounters are brief but memorable, etching themselves into the minds of travelers and reinforcing the Rowata's reputation as a place of quiet mystery. The road itself is narrow and twisting, bordered by steep embankments and dense undergrowth. Each turn brings new shadows and new perspectives on the forest's depth. Every movement in the periphery feels significant, every sound amplified, making the drive both immersive and tense. Isolation heightens the experience. With few other vehicles or sources of light, every sound and movement becomes more pronounced. The rustle of leaves, the snap of a branch, or the distant call of an owl carries a weight that would not in open or populated areas. Travelers become acutely aware of their surroundings, noting even the subtlest shift in air or temperature, and sensing the forest's quiet awareness. The forest floor along Bear Creek Road is thick with moss, ferns, and fallen leaves. Shadows stretch across the road, forming shapes that can seem human or animal in fleeting glimpses. These visual distortions contribute to the eerie feeling that the forest is not empty. The combination of low light, fog, and natural texture creates an environment where imagination and perception merge. And ordinary objects take on a spectral quality. The cries from the trees are not the only auditory phenomenon. Some travelers report whispers carried on the wind, faint but deliberate, blending with the natural sounds of the forest. These whispers seem to emanate from no particular direction, surrounding drivers and passengers, creating a sensation of being encircled by the presence of others. The experience is subtle yet profound, leaving a lingering sense of unease long after the road has been left behind. Fog often rolls in from low areas, curling along the pavement and through the trees. The mist softens edges, obscures distance, and transforms familiar shapes into moving shadows. Light from headlights glances off droplets, creating reflections and illusions that shift with every movement. The combination of fog, shadows, and the forest's natural acoustics amplifies the feeling that the road is alive with unseen observers. Travelers describe moments of sudden chill, where the air becomes cold and heavy without warning. The effect is brief but pronounced, often accompanying a glimpse of a figure, a whisper, or a soft cry. These temperature shifts heighten awareness and add a physical dimension to the road's mysterious energy, making the experience feel both immersive and tangible. The figures that appear along the roadside are often described as moving deliberately, sometimes pausing to observe before dissolving into the fog. The impact of these encounters is psychological as much as visual, creating a lasting impression that lingers in memory long after the drive has ended. Bear Creek Rowata's reputation is built on these subtle and persistent phenomena. Every bend in the road, every shadow, every sound contributes to a layered narrative that blends natural beauty with unexplained presence. The forest and the road together create a unique environment, one that encourages observation, reflection, and an acute awareness of the unseen forces that may inhabit it. Even during daylight, the road holds a quiet tension. Shadows and mist remain, and the forest's density limits visibility, creating isolated pockets where sounds echo. and forms shift, travelers report sensing presence, seeing fleeting shapes, or hearing cries, all of which reinforce the idea that Bear Creek Road is a space where the ordinary and extraordinary coexist. Driving along Bear Creek Road is a journey into the unknown, a corridor where the forest, fog, shadows, and spectral presence converge. Every turn, every sound, and every movement along the roadside contributes to an immersive experience that is both compelling and haunting. The road is not merely a passage through Jackson County. It is a living space, rich with history, memory, and subtle mystery. Bear Creek Road remains a place where travelers encounter both natural beauty and the unexplained. Dense evergreens, shifting shadows, soft cries, and ephemeral figures create an atmosphere that is cinematic and immersive. Each journey becomes part of the Rowata-esque ongoing story, a living narrative of presence and perception, leaving a lasting impression on all who travel its quiet, fog-filled path. Willamette Pass Road winds through the mountains of Lane County, a narrow stretch of asphalt carved into steep slopes and dense forests. By day, it is a quiet and scenic route, flanked by towering pines and the occasional rocky outcrop. Yet as darkness falls, the atmosphere shifts, and the road takes on a presence that is both mysterious and unsettling. Fog often rolls down the mountain in thick sheets, appearing suddenly and clinging to the road. Visibility drops sharply, and the familiar turns of the asphalt dissolve into a featureless white. Trees emerge as vague, shadowy shapes, and rocks and guardrails vanish into the mist. Headlights cut to the fog with limited effect, creating halos of light that reveal fragments of the forest while leaving much unseen. The road feels isolated, and even familiar stretches take on an unfamiliar and foreboding character. Travelers report hearing voices carried on the fog. At first, they are faint and distant, almost blending with the sound of wind through the trees. Sometimes they sound like calling from behind, soft and deliberate, whispering unintelligible words or even the traveler's own name. The voices seem to move along the edges of the road, drifting closer and then fading abruptly. The effect is disorienting, making the silence of the mountains feel alive with unseen presence. Footsteps are another common phenomenon along Willamette Pass Road. Often follow travelers at a distance, light and deliberate, echoing off the slopes in a way that seems unnatural. When drivers pause or look back, there is no one there, yet the rhythm of movement continues for a moment longer, creating a lingering sense of observation. The forest becomes more than scenery. It feels inhabited by something unseen, watching every mile travel along the winding asphalt. Figures have been seen standing in the road itself. Headlights reveal shapes that appear suddenly, often in the center of the lane. They remain still, as if waiting, and vanish the instant the vehicle approaches. Witnesses describe a mix of surprise and unease, a sense that the figures are tangible yet not bound by the normal rules of space. The experience is brief, but it leaves a lasting impression, a reminder that the road is far from ordinary once night falls. The road geography amplifies the effect of these encounters. Sharp curves and switchbacks limit visibility. Shadows from trees twist across the asphalt. Every movement, every sound is intensified by the fog and the isolation. Sounds of the forest contribute to the tension. The rustle of leaves, the snapping of branches, and distant calls of nocturnal animals all take on an eerie quality when filtered through fog. Even the rushing of streams or the distant echo of a waterfall can seem like movement among the trees. Travelers describe heightened senses where every detail is amplified and ordinary sounds acquire mysterious significance. The isolation of Willamette Pass Road makes encounters feel intimate. There are rarely other vehicles at night, and the surrounding wilderness absorbs distant noise. This quiet intensifies the experience, making the voices, footsteps, and figures feel close, almost interactive. Travelers often report a sensation of being observed from multiple directions, a subtle pressing awareness that grows with every mile through fog and darkness. The interplay of light, shadow, and fog is particularly striking. Headlights reveal fragments of trees, rocks, and slopes, while the rest of the landscape is obscured. Shadows shift as the car moves, sometimes suggesting forms of motion just beyond perception. The fog itself appears to move independently, curling along the asphalt and into the trees, creating the impression that the environment is alive, subtly interacting with those who traverse it. History may play a role in the road's mysterious character. The mountains of Lane County have long been routes for travelers, loggers, and adventurers, and many accidents have occurred along the pass. The combination of isolation, sharp curves, and sudden weather changes has claimed lives over the years. Some suggest that the voices, figures, and sudden stalls of vehicles are echoes of past events, lingering in the environment as subtle reminders of the road's past. Travelers often describe a profound effect from driving the pass at night. The combination of fog, shadows, voices, and figures create a heightened awareness of space and movement. Every bend in the road carries the possibility of unexpected sight or sound. Ordinary elements, such as trees, rocks, and streams, are transformed, charged with an energy that is both captivating and unsettling. By morning, the road resumes its daytime calm. Fog lifts, the forest is bathed in sunlight, and the asphalt appears familiar once more. Yet those who have driven Willamette Pass Road at night retain vivid memories. The voices calling from the fog, the footsteps that follow, and the figures that vanish as quickly as they appear linger in the mind. A reminder that this mountain route holds secrets beyond the ordinary. Willamette Pass Road endures as a place of beauty, isolation, and subtle terror. Its fog-laden nights, ghostly figures, and whispered voices create an immersive environment that challenges perception and leaves a lasting impression. Travelers carry away memories that blend awe, curiosity, and unease, aware that the road is more than a route through the mountains. It is a corridor where the natural and the unexplained converge, a space where history, memory, and mystery meet under the cover of darkness. Bigelow Creek Road stretches through the dense forest of Coos County, a narrow route once used for logging, now largely forgotten. The road winds along steep hillsides, crossing over old wooden bridges and tracing the edges of the creek it is named for. By day, the route reveals towering evergreens, moss-covered rocks, and the gentle murmur water, a serene escape into nature. At night, however, the road transforms, carrying an air of quiet unease that lingers long after travelers have left. Many who drive Bigelow Creek Road after dark report their cars stalling without explanation. Engines cut out suddenly, lights flicker, and controls become unresponsive for brief moments. Restarting the vehicle often restores function, yet the interruptions leave a lasting impression. These moments create a heightened awareness of the road, the surrounding forest, and the subtle, inexplicable events that seem to follow travelers along its path. Whispers are a common experience on the road. Soft voices drift through the trees, indistinct at first, blending with the sounds of wind, leaves, and the distant flow of the creek. Some travelers describe the whispers as speaking directly to them, recounting fears or personal thoughts as if known intimately by an unseen presence. The effect is never threatening, but it leaves a sense that the forest itself is aware, attentive to the passage of those who traverse it. Shadowy figures appear near bridges and curves, fleeting and almost imperceptible. They stand at the edges of the road or along the creek, visible only briefly before vanishing into darkness. Observers often question whether they were truly seen or imagined, yet multiple accounts suggest a persistent phenomenon. The figures are silent and still, yet their presence feels deliberate, as if marking the boundaries of an unseen world layered over a familiar landscape. The bridges themselves hold an unsettling character. Made of aged timber and iron, some show the effects of decades of weather and neglect. Crossing them at night amplifies the sense of isolation, the creek below whispering and shifting in the darkness. Travelers report that the shadowy figures are often seen near these structures, lingering briefly before disappearing into surrounding forest, reinforcing the feeling that the road is alive with memory and presence. Bigelow Creek Road is narrow and winding, bordered by thick underbrush and towering evergreens. The canopy overhead often blocks moonlight, leaving stretches of the road in deep darkness. Every sound, from the rustle of leaves to the call of distant wildlife, is amplified, creating an immersive experience where ordinary perception is challenged. The The combination of isolation, natural beauty, and subtle phenomena heightens attention and draws travelers into the environment in a way that is both captivating and unsettling. Some travelers report a sensation of someone sitting beside them in the car. The feeling is fleeting, subtle, and never harmful, yet it evokes a profound sense of presence. Seats may feel warmer, a light pressure may be sensed, and the awareness of being watched becomes tangible. These experiences occur alongside the whispers, stalling engines and shadowy figures, creating a layered narrative that blurs the line between reality and perception. Fog often settles along the creek, thickening in low areas and around the bridges. Headlights cut through the mist in narrow beams, illuminating the road just enough to reveal glimpses of the forest and water. Within the fog, shadows move and shapes shift, creating fleeting images that vanish when looked at directly. The mist softens sound, allowing whispers to travel further, and intensifies the visual anomalies, heightening the sense of otherworldly presence. The forest surrounding the road is ancient. Moss and lichen-covered tree trunks. Fallen logs carpet the forest floor, and the creek winds steadily through the landscape. Sounds are distorted and amplified, creating an environment in which every movement, every shift of light, and every faint noise feels significant. Each element contributes to the immersive atmosphere of the road. Even during daylight, Bigelow Creek Road retains a subtle tension. Sunlight filtering through the trees creates shifting shadows that suggest movement at the periphery of vision. Patterns of light and dark on the road and surrounding landscape form shapes that seem to watch or follow. The memory of night along the road lingers for those who have traveled it, a quiet reminder that ordinary places can carry extraordinary impressions. The road demands respect. Its curves and steep inclines require careful navigation. Yet the forest, creek, and subtle phenomena create an experience where perception and environment are intertwined. Every journey becomes a study in observation and awareness, a chance to witness the interplay of natural beauty and unexplained events. Travelers leave with a lasting impression of a place where ordinary reality meets the mysterious, and the memory of the road remains vivid in both mind and imagination. Bigelow Creek Road continues to capture the attention of those drawn to quiet, mysterious landscapes. The stalling cars, whispered voices, shadowy figures, and fleeting sensations of presence form an ongoing story, woven into the forest, creek, and bridges that define the route. Each traveler adds their own experience to the Rowata-esque narrative, creating a space where natural grandeur and subtle mystery converge, leaving a lasting, haunting impression that endures long after the journey is ended. Lost Lake Road winds deep into forest surrounding Mount Hood, a narrow path carved through towering pines and dense undergrowth. By day, the road offers glimpses of tranquil waters and moss-covered boulders, with sunlight breaking through the canopy to dapple the asphalt. Birds call from the treetops, and the occasional ripple disturbs the calm surface of Lost Lake. Yet as daylight fades, the forest takes on a different presence, one that is quiet, isolated, and tinged with subtle unease. Travelers driving along Lost Lake Road at dusk often describe a sudden shift in atmosphere. The air grows colder than the surrounding forest, settling over the vehicle like an invisible weight. It is not a chill carried by the wind, but a quiet, penetrating cold that seems to hold a warning. Drivers notice their breath forming in the air and the faint shiver that runs along the spine, an instinctive response to something unseen lingering nearby. Ghostly reflections sometimes appear on the surface of Lost Lake. Shapes seem to shimmer just beneath the water, resembling figures that mirror the movement of those on the shore. When looked at directly, the images fade, leaving only the still, dark water behind. This phenomenon is fleeting yet unmistakable, leaving travelers with the sensation of witnessing something that exists between the real and the imagined, a reflection of the unseen waiting just out of reach. Figures have been seen standing along the Lockyer-esque banks. Tall and silent, they appear in the corners of vision, often illuminated faintly by moonlight or distant vehicle headlights. When approached, these figures vanish without a trace, leaving only empty forest and the gentle lapping of water. The encounters are brief and intangible, yet they leave an impression, a feeling that the road and lake are home to a presence that is aware of every visitor who passes through. The road itself is narrow and winding, with dense forest pressing closely on either side. Pine needles and fallen branches line the asphalt, and mist often drifts in from the lake, softening outlines and creating a sense of suspension. Curves appear suddenly, and visibility is limited by trees and fog, heightening the sense of isolation. In this environment, every sound and shadow is amplified, from the creak of a branch to the distant call of wildlife. Travelers report subtle auditory phenomena along Lost Lake Road. The wind carries soft whispers or the faint echo of footsteps on the forest floor. Sometimes the sounds seem to come from just behind a vehicle, yet no one is present. Other times, the rustling of leaves and snapping of twigs seems synchronized with a feeling of being observed. These auditory cues contribute to the immersive atmosphere, blending with visual anomalies to create an experience that is both captivating and disquieting. The interplay between natural beauty and subtle mystery defines Lost Lake Road. During the day, the lake reflects the surrounding mountains and forest in perfect clarity, a place of serene tranquility. By night, shadows stretch across the water, mist drifts over the surface, and the reflections shift into shapes that suggest movement without substance. Travelers find themselves alert to every detail, noticing the faintest flicker of light, the softest ripple, or the sensation of eyes upon them from the dark forest. Noticing the faintest flicker of light, the softest ripple, or the sensation of eyes upon them from the dark forest. Noticing the faintest flicker of light, the softest ripple, or the sensation of eyes upon them from the dark forest. Noticing the faintest flicker of light, the softest ripple, or the sensation of eyes upon them from the dark forest. Isolation is a central part of the experience. Few vehicles traverse the road at night, and the sounds of civilization fade quickly. The silence of the forest amplifies every sensation, making the journey both intimate and intense. The combination of narrow asphalt, dense trees, and mist creates an environment where perception is heightened and ordinary phenomena are transformed into experiences that feel extraordinary and lingering. Some drivers describe a feeling of time stretching along Lost Lake Road. Minutes seem longer, and every turn of the road brings a heightened awareness of surroundings. The cold air, the ghostly reflections, and the vanishing figures all contribute to the sense that the road exists in a space where the ordinary and the unexplained intersect. Even after leaving the area, the impressions persist, creating memories that are vivid and difficult to forget. By morning, sunlight penetrates the forest canopy, illuminating Lost Lake and the surrounding pines. Mist retreats, shadows shorten, and the road returns to its familiar appearance. The ghostly reflections and figures vanish with the night, leaving only memory and impression. Yet the Roada-esque reputation endures, a place where travelers are reminded of the delicate balance between natural beauty and subtle mystery. Lost Lake Road remains more than a secluded forest road. It is a path where isolation, natural grandeur, and unexplained phenomena converge. Every curve, shadow, and reflection contributes to a journey that is immersive, reflective, and hauntingly memorable. Travelers leave carrying more than the scenery of Mount Hood. They carry the experience of a road alive with presence, a landscape that whispers quietly to those willing to notice, and a memory that lingers long after the drive has ended. Rock Creek Road winds quietly through Klamath County, a curving path framed by dense woods that rise on either side like silent guardians. The trees are tall and closely spaced, their thick branches intertwining overhead to form a canopy that filters sunlight into shifting patterns across the asphalt. The road is narrow and winding, offering few places to pull over, and the isolation is immediate, creating a sense of being deep within a living, breathing forest. As travelers move deeper along the road, the atmosphere changes. Shadows stretch long and shift unexpectedly, influenced by the movement of vehicles and the gentle sway of branches. Some report seeing a shadowy figure dressed in a black cloak, standing silently at the side of the road. The figure is often still and imposing, its features obscured, creating a presence that is impossible to ignore. When approached, it vanishes, leaving only an eerie memory and a chill in the air. Unexplained sounds are another hallmark of Rock Creek Road. Chains are sometimes heard rattling behind vehicles, a metallic clatter that echoes through the forest and fades as quickly as it appears. Drivers describe the sound as deliberate, as if something unseen is moving in rhythm with the road itself. These auditory phenomena heighten tension, transforming an ordinary drive into an immersive experience, where every rustle and shift becomes significant. Isolation amplifies every sensation along the road. The snap of a branch, the rustle of leaves, or the whisper of wind takes on a new weight, creating a sense that the forest itself is aware of every traveler. Even during daylight, the dense canopy and deep shadows foster a feeling of being enclosed, of existing within a space where ordinary perception is challenged. Some travelers experience mechanical disturbances. Cars stall inexplicably in the middle of the road, engines cutting out without warning. Headlights dim or flicker, and radios may emit static, heightening the sense that the road is not governed by ordinary rules. These moments are brief but unsettling, leaving drivers feeling vulnerable and alert to every movement and sound in the surrounding woods. The forest itself is alive with subtle textures and patterns. Moss-covered rocks, thick ferns, and fallen leaves line the roadside, creating an environment that is both beautiful and slightly disorienting. Fog often settles in low areas, curling along the road and softening shapes into shifting forms that seem almost animate. Light from headlights and the occasional moonbeam cuts through mist, forming fleeting illusions that vanish before they can be fully seen. Figures in the distance contribute to the Rowada's reputation. Travelers describe fleeting glimpses of cloaked forms, shadows that move independently of the trees, or shapes that disappear when observed directly. These visual anomalies are not threatening but profoundly affecting, creating a persistent sense that the road is alive with unseen observers. The forest and its spectral inhabitants become inseparable in the mind of the traveler. Sound, sight, and atmosphere combine to create an immersive journey. The rhythmic curves of the road, the density of the forest, and the occasional flicker of light create a cinematic quality, where each moment is heightened and every perception feels significant. Even mundane features of the road take on an otherworldly character when experienced in this context. And the interplay of natural beauty and subtle mystery captures attention fully. Rock Creek Road is more than just a physical path. It is a corridor that holds memory and presence. The woods remember the passage of travelers, and perhaps even the echoes of events long past. Chains rattling, figures in black, and stalled vehicles serve as reminders that this is a space where ordinary logic does not always apply, and where attention and awareness are rewarded with the extraordinary. Fog and mist enhance the experience further, transforming familiar trees and undergrowth into shifting silhouettes. Shadows lengthen and bend, blending with the terrain to create forms that seem to emerge from the forest itself. Every bend in the road reveals new possibilities, new fleeting impressions that may or may not be real, leaving travelers in a heightened state of alertness and curiosity. The Rowada South's winding nature encourages close observation. Curves, dips, and rises provide brief glimpses of the forest beyond. And travelers often notice movement in the periphery that disappears when looked at directly. These fleeting moments add a layer of tension and engagement, making each journey along Rock Creek Road both memorable and immersive. Even in daylight, the road retains its enigmatic qualities. Dense trees, shifting shadows, and intermittent fog create pockets where perception is challenged. Travelers may hear chains or sense a presence, see figures at the edge of vision, or experience mechanical anomalies, all contributing to the enduring reputation of the road as a place where mystery persists. Rock Creek Road is a unique blend of natural beauty and subtle menace. Every turn, shadow, and sound contributes to a narrative that is immersive and cinematic. The presence of cloaked figures, rattling chains, and unexplained stalls reminds travelers that this is a road where history, memory, and perception converge, creating an environment that is compelling, haunting, and unforgettable. Driving along Rock Creek Road is a journey into both the forest and the unknown. Every curve, shadow, and fleeting form engages the senses fully, inviting reflection, curiosity, and cautious wonder. The road exists as a living corridor, where natural landscapes and unexplained phenomena coexist, leaving travelers with an experience that resonates long after the journey has ended. Timberline Road winds through the Mount Hood area, surrounded by old-growth forests that rise like towering guardians on either side of the asphalt. By day, the road is serene, framed by ancient pines, firs, and cedars, their trunks thick and textured, their branches stretching skyward. Sunlight filters through the canopy, scattering golden light across the moss-covered forest floor. Streams cross beneath small bridges, and the air carries the crisp scent of pine and damp earth. Streams cross beneath small bridges, and the air carries the crisp scent of pine and damp earth. Travelers feel a sense of peace and isolation as they move deeper into the wilderness. As dusk approaches, the atmosphere changes. Shadows lengthen, stretching across the road, and the forest seems to close in. Fog often drifts down the slopes, settling between the trees and creating a soft, hazy veil over the landscape. The road becomes narrower in perception, and familiar shapes are distorted by the low light and mist. Travelers feel a heightened awareness, sensing the forest as more than a backdrop, as though it is alive with quiet observation. One of the most frequently reported phenomena along Timberline Road is the appearance of floating lights. These lights are small, bright, and move slowly between the trees. Sometimes they hover near the edge of the road, while other times they drift deeper into the forest, disappearing into the shadows. Observers describe the lights as ethereal, almost weightless, and impossible to reach. They seem to follow a pattern or intent, appearing to guide or warn travelers as they navigate the winding asphalt. Whispers accompany these lights at times. Travelers describe hearing soft, almost indistinct words that seem carried by the wind through the trees. The whispers are often perceived as warnings or cautionary messages, subtle enough to provoke unease rather than fear. The sound moves with the fog, shifting from one side of the road to the other, making it difficult to determine its source, creating a sense that the forest is communicating in its own secret language, an interaction between traveler and environment that is both compelling and mysterious. Figures occasionally appear along Timberline Road. Drivers report seeing silhouettes crossing the asphalt, moving deliberately but silently. When approached, the figures vanish into the darkness of the forest, leaving no trace behind. The sudden appearance and disappearance of these figures startle travelers, creating a sense of immediacy and presence. They seem connected to the lights and whispers, part of the subtle, unseen activity that unfolds along the road at night. The Roada's geography intensifies the experience. Timberline Road twists and turns, following the contours of Mount Hood slopes. Steep inclines and sharp curves reduce visibility, and the forest rises close to the edge of the asphalt. Headlights cut narrow paths through the darkness, illuminating trees, moss, and rock faces in fleeting detail before the fog or shadow conceals them again. Each turn carries a potential for new encounters, shapes, or sounds, making every mile an exercise in awareness and caution. The forest itself seems alive at night. Branches sway even when the air is still, creating moving shadows across the road. The wind whispers through leaves, producing faint, haunting sounds that blend with distant streams or the crack of a falling branch. Animals add to the atmosphere, though their presence is often indistinct, muffled by the distance and fog. Travelers report that every sound, movement, and shape feels amplified, as though the environment is attuned to their passage, responding subtly to every action and movement. Isolation amplifies the sense of mystery. Few vehicles travel Timberline Road after dark, and the surrounding forest absorbs distant sounds. Drivers become acutely aware of their surroundings, noting the rhythm of the road, the patterns of shadow and light, and the subtle changes in the air. The forest and mountains seem to exist on a different temporal plane, where the ordinary rules of perception shift, and the extraordinary quietly manifests. The fog plays a particularly important role in shaping the experience. It moves unpredictably, curling along the asphalt, drifting among the trees, and obscuring the edges of the road. Headlights reveal glimpses of shapes and light within the mist, only for them to vanish moments later. Shadows and fog interact in ways that create illusions of movement and form, reinforcing the sense that the road is alive with unseen observers. Travelers describe moments where the environment seems to breathe, to shift around them, heightening tension and curiosity. History contributes to Timberline Roada's reputation. The Mount Hood area has long been a place of exploration, logging, and adventure. Many accidents and mishaps have occurred along the winding mountain routes, and the landscape retains an echo of past journeys. Some suggest that the lights, whispers, and figures are manifestations of history, remnants of those who traveled these roads before, lingering as subtle warnings or watchers for those who follow. Travelers often report a mix of awe and unease. The lights floating between the trees, whispered warnings, and disappearing figures create a sensory experience that is immersive and unforgettable. Every bend in the road, every shift in shadow or fog, and every reflected glow in the headlights contributes to a sense of connection to the forest and mountain. Timberline Road becomes more than a passage through the Mount Hood area. It becomes a journey into an environment charged with mystery, history, and quiet, persistent energy. By dawn, the road regains its daytime character. Fog lifts, shadows recede, and the forest is bathed in sunlight. Streams sparkle, moss appears vibrant, and the towering trees seem familiar and safe once again. Yet travelers who have driven Timberline Road at night carry vivid memories of floating lights, whispered words, and the fleeting presence of figures. These experiences endure, leaving a lasting impression of a road with a natural world and the unexplained coexist in subtle, compelling ways. Timberline Road remains a route of scenic beauty and quiet mystery. Its old-growth forest, winding asphalt, and night phenomena create an immersive experience for those who traverse it. Travelers leave with a sense of connection to the mountain, the forest, and the unseen elements that linger beyond sight. It is a road where nature, history, and subtle supernatural presence converge, offering an unforgettable journey through the shadows and light of the Mount Hood area. Diamond Lake Road stretches for miles through the forest of Klamath County, running alongside the icy expanse of Diamond Lake during the winter months. Snow blankets the ground and frost clings to the evergreens, creating a scene of stark, silent beauty. The frozen lake reflects the pale light of the sun or the dim glow of moonlight, and the surrounding forest seems still, almost suspended in time. By day it is serene, but as evening falls, the road takes on a more unsettling character. Travelers often report sudden fog that rises without warning. It drifts across the road in thick, rolling waves, reducing visibility to mere feet. Headlights barely penetrate the mist, and a familiar landscape transforms into a ghostly corridor of shadow and ice. The fog seems to shift with an intelligence of its own, lingering longer in certain stretches and retreating in others, leaving drivers with a sense that the road is alive, aware of their passage. Figures appear along the edge of the road, glimpsed through the fog or between trees. They are fleeting, often vanishing when observed directly. Some appear to walk along the roadside, while others seem to stand motionless, watching travelers pass. The shapes are human in form but lack clear detail, as if they exist partially outside reality. Encounters with these figures leave a lasting impression, an uncanny feeling that the road is inhabited by presences not of this world. Footsteps are another phenomenon reported along Diamond Lake Road. Drivers have described hearing rapid steps behind their vehicles, echoing on the snow-covered ground or through the dense forest. Yet, when they stop and check, there is no one there. The sound fades abruptly, leaving a silence heavier than before, as though the footsteps themselves were a warning or an attempt to communicate something unseen. The winter landscape amplifies every sound. The wind through the pines, the crunch of ice under tires, and the distant lapping of water against frozen shorelines create a soundscape that is both beautiful and eerie. Against this backdrop, the whispers of the forest and the fleeting figures seem all the more real, commanding attention and respect. Locals speak of the spirits of travelers lost long ago, those who never returned from the road during harsh winters. According to legend, these spirits continue to linger, bound to the path where their journeys ended. Stories warn of sudden fog, ghostly figures, and footsteps as manifestations of those who could not leave, their present a reminder of the dangers and mysteries of the road. The road itself is narrow and winding, flanked by tall trees and occasional rock outcroppings. Each bend reveals a new perspective of the frozen lake, or the shadowed forest beyond. Travelers are forced to remain alert, their senses heightened by the isolation, the cold, and the strange occurrences that seem to follow them along the route. Visibility is limited, and the twisting path often hides what lies ahead. Even in daylight, the atmosphere of Diamond Lake Road is subtle but pervasive. Snow-covered branches cast intricate shadows on the road, and the reflective surface of the frozen lake creates illusions of movement and depth. Figures may appear in the periphery, the fog may roll in unexpectedly, and footsteps or other sounds can emerge without an identifiable source. The environment is immersive, drawing travelers into a heightened state of awareness where natural and supernatural elements blend seamlessly. The frozen lake contributes to the haunting quality of the road. Its surface is often glassy and still, reflecting trees, sky, and occasional passing vehicle. Yet within its reflective surface, shapes are sometimes glimpsed moving beneath or along the edges, vanishing when approached. The lake becomes a mirror to the unseen, a quiet witness to the passing of travelers and the lingering presences that inhabit the area. Fog, snow, and shadow interact to create an environment where ordinary perception is challenged. The mind begins to interpret shapes, sounds, and patterns with a heightened sensitivity, and the road becomes a space where imagination and reality intertwine. Travelers describe a sense of being observed, a subtle awareness that something is following them, even in the absence of any visible figure. This feeling leaves the mind reeling, questioning the nature of reality itself. The isolation of the road magnifies every experience. Few homes or signs of civilization are visible, and the forest is dense and silent beyond the reach of headlights. The combination of remoteness, natural beauty, and unexplained phenomena creates a compelling and immersive experience. Each mile traveled along Diamond Lake Road adds to the sense that the environment is alive, aware, and holding stories long forgotten by those outside the forest. Even after leaving the road, travelers carry the memory of their experiences. The fog, the figures, the footsteps, and the stillness of the frozen lake leave a lasting impression. Diamond Lake Road is a place where natural majesty meets subtle mystery, where the ordinary world overlaps with the echoes of those who came before. Every journey becomes part of the ongoing story of the road, a testament to the enduring presence of travelers lost long ago, and the quiet, haunting beauty that surrounds their lingering spirits. Thank you for walking these haunted forest roads with me tonight. 25 roads, 25 restless spirits, and countless travelers who disappear without a trace. Oregona-esque forests hold beauty by day, but when night falls, the trees whisper secrets, the fog hides figures, and some roads should never be driven alone. If you ever venture through these forest roads, remember the shadows, remember the whispers, and remember, some travelers never truly leave these haunted paths. Sleep well tonight, if you can.